Yeah, what's up, everybody? We are live. Thank you for tuning in. That was our little intro, our little original song that will be released pretty soon. The song is called Release, actually, which is kind of cool. So thank you guys for tuning in. We got some stuff to talk about this evening. There's a lot going on right now. Some good things, some alarming things. We're going to get into it really shortly. Make sure you guys hit that like button and share this on your way in. You are watching Young Lion TV.
Young lion, everywhere I look, they're dying. Everywhere I look, they're dying. Young lion, everywhere I look, they're dying. Everywhere I look, they're dying. Young lion, won't you get up and start fighting? Everywhere I look, they're hiding.
Yep, that's right. We are live. And I got with me this evening, as you can see, I got a tighter shot on myself right now.
Oh.
Well,
okay.
okay, you're jumping the gun on me. I got a real tight shot on myself today because I'm sitting by myself on this side.
All by myself.
Don't wanna be, yeah. And on the other chair, we have my big brother, but he's everybody's big brother.
I'm all by myself too.
He's all by himself as well. It's just the two of us this evening sitting on the chairs. Me, I am the captain of the ship, and he is the what would you be? The navigator? Yeah. He is the teacher, the preacher, the people reacher, Mr. Jacob Eugene Evans III, sitting on couch number 2 down here in the Lion's Den in the basement over here. So thank you for being here this evening. We going to just be me and you tonight. We're going to hold it down.
I'm here.
Well, yes, I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that.
He means over here, Mom.
Oh, okay.
I mean over here, getting into the topics. But we do have holding down our production and switching cameras, pushing buttons, and chiming in. Yes, we have our mother, the wonderful Angeli Lopez.
Hi.
And thank you guys for tuning in. Once again, I want to encourage you to please like this video because as you can see from the title of this, and as you know, if you've watched this stream in the past, all of our supporters, we don't get help by the algorithm. So we need you guys to share the video, like it, put it in your feeds, whatever you can do to support what we're doing, to get the conversation going. And if you're new to this, if you're just checking us out for the first time, you're chiming in, you've never seen us before, this is Young Lion TV. And we just a community of, usually have a few more people in here with us talking about stuff. Everybody was tied up this evening, but shout out to Simone, Stan, and James. And if you haven't catched it before, we're just like a community of Christian people, like-minded people that are talking about the world, talking about things that we've learned, talking about our journey through life that has led us back to, the Christian values that we live by now and that we preach to others or just encourage others to reincorporate into their lives because it makes for a better community. And it avoids a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with now in the world. So if that's something that you can get down with, hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube. Follow us on Rumble if you're watching over there. Hey, subscribe on Twitch if you're watching. If you're on Twitter, hit the follow. We appreciate everybody who is supporting. Also, we have a website. If you want to, hold on a second, Mom. Let me find it real quick. Okay, boom. If you want to support, we have a band called Jatan that we also have. Oh, it's not coming up. Okay. I got you. Boom. There it is.
Okay.
So if you want to support in other ways, we have a bunch of merch. This is our merch store here on Jatan.com where we have our music. You heard the song in the beginning of the stream. That's one of our songs. We are also a band and a music group, and we also write a lot of songs as well. So You can check out the website there, and we also have a Patreon. If you want to become a Patreon member, you can sign up over there. There's plenty of tiers where we are building the community of the Young Lions, and we have a lot of people that have been signing up, and just the level of community that we have accomplished just from the Patreon, just from the podcast, people that come to the shows, people that just even come to church, people that just come to hang out. We have some great Patreon members that have become a part of the family. So, if you want to sign up on there, there's different tiers and different levels that you can sign up for based on, how much you want to support or be involved. So we have that as well. And we also have the Cash App if you want to just donate to the cause. It's just Young Lion TV on Cash App. And we have our other merch store here where we have plenty of different merch options here that you can get. You can see I'm wearing the hat right here and the hoodie. And then we have the hat here. There's some mugs and a bunch of other stuff that you guys can get if you want to just rock some of the apparel, which we're coming up with other designs for that as well. But other than that, that's all of the pitches I have for you. So what's up, Jake? What's going on, man?
Nothing. I just want to get into this stuff because we got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, it's a lot going on.
Yeah.
So don't forget, guys, share the video, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Help us out. But like you said, there's a lot going on right now. One of the main things is it was just President's Day,
Yeah.
And that was yesterday. And did you hear about where Biden went?
No, I did not.
Ukraine?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he went to Ukraine yesterday. Still hasn't been to East Palestine,
I heard about him signing some World Health Organization.
Yeah.
You heard about that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, he signed to give them the authority to basically give them authority over our next pandemic.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy.
Which is unconstitutional.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Right.
But if we don't uphold the Constitution, it doesn't matter.
Right. But yesterday, a lot of people were upset with the fact that instead of going to East Palestine where we have that crisis going on,
he went to Ukraine.
He went to Ukraine and gave Vladimir Zelensky another $500 million.
Wow.
Which
he hasn't even been to the border.
Yeah, hasn't been to the border, hasn't been to,
Unbelievable.
Hasn't even offered any relief up to the people in East Palestine who can't drink water. Like they have no access to clean water right now.
Oh my God.
FEMA wasn't even gonna call it a disaster zone. They didn't want to go.
Yeah, they denied him.
Yeah, and then it's funny because as soon as Trump announced that he's going there, then they changed their mind. Like literally minutes later, they changed their mind, and now they're gonna go there.
But what are they trying to just have the people die, like drink the water and die and all that?
I think it's honestly, I think it's because that area is a known Republican. Like I think they vote like 75% Republican.
Wow.
So I think Biden and that whole administration just looks at it as pointless to even go there and help them. That's not their base. You
That's
know what I mean?
cruelty. That's terrible.
I mean, yeah. Well, they don't care about. What did Kanye West say?
George Bush don't care about black people. Yeah.
So this one's a little different.
Yeah.
They don't care about anybody that's not a Democrat, I guess.
Let me shout out to people on Facebook who are chiming in. Donnie Estrada said good evening. Shout out to Donnie. Jason Gandy said, ha ha. Mom's like, don't forget me. Adam said he shared. What's up, Adam? Shout out to Adam. Love what y'all do. Donnie gave the thumbs up sign. So appreciate y'all, man, for chiming in. Make sure you guys, just drop some comments in on the conversation for what we're talking about. If you have any information or if you have any questions, blah, 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 all that stuff, just drop some comments in there for us. So, yeah, this is a quick little shot of him arriving in Ukraine. You hear the air raid sirens and all of that?
Yeah.
So a lot of people were saying that they were doing that. A lot of people were saying that they did that just for show, because they knew he was coming. You know what I mean? So they did that to like you amp up the war idea. Matter of fact, this is a reporter on CNN calling it out, which is funny.
I've been here for the past 5 days. I have not heard any explosions. I have not heard any air sirens until about half an hour ago, right when President Biden was in the center of Kyiv, as Clarissa was just mentioning.
I mean, they gotta sell why they need that extra 500 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to this day, I think total we've given them $100 billion.
My God.
The total, $100 billion, and we got people. Flint, Michigan,
And we're paying
still
$6
doesn't
for
have.
eggs.
We're paying $6 for eggs. Flint, Michigan, still doesn't have their water issue fixed. Then you look at East Palestine right now, which they haven't offered any aid or money to. But we like, this is the crazy stuff. Like Tupac said, got money for war, but can't feed the poor. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, but it's all crooked.
but to me, it's just like, it's a slap in the face to everyone who lives here when there's like, you know, I remember I was watching Patrick Bet David today. He had Yomi Park on,
Okay.
who's the defector from North Korea. And they were talking about that, and he said, like, there's 500 million homeless people in America. And with that $100 billion, you could give every one of them like $100,000 or something like that. He was saying,
It's not like they would spend it well.
right? And of course, that wouldn't fix the problem.
Right.
But it's just the point of like, when you hear $100 billion, you don't even fathom how much money that is.
100 billion. That's crazy.
Well, that's the problem with too much government. Is that when you give the government too much power, you see how they tax, and you know, even going back to income tax, like we can go on about that, but when you give them too much, they're gonna do what they want. A lot of times, this is what's been happening. That's why less government is always a thing. But when you're not responsible and you're lazy, and I don't mean that in a condescending way, I just mean like that's the way they train us to be lazy and just think about what's right before us, right before our faces. Like, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with that. Well, we become lazy, and then we want to give over our responsibility to the government, and they take it and they squander it because they're looking out for themselves.
And not only that, the government will use every tool in its belt to propagandize their agenda to us, and we will just eat it up like, you know, like we're being spoon-fed. Like, how many people have been putting Ukraine flags up in their house and like just being sold in the fact that we have to be in this war. We have to do this. You know what I mean? We're celebrating for Ukraine, and you know, when you really do the research on how this whole thing started and escalated with Russia, I mean, it's not what they're saying it is.
Way.
Donnie said it, I mean, clearly it was for show. The whole trip was for show. Yeah, I mean, that's what we're saying. It's funny that he'll do that for show, but it doesn't become just for show when you give them $500 million. And also that move then sends a message to Russia and China that we are, we're not backing down from supporting Ukraine in this. I mean, even right after that, President Putin said that he was backing out of what's the treaty that they have to the nuke treaty that Russia has. Right here. Putin's moves on nuclear treaty may signal end to formal arms control. So so mutual inspections were interrupted by the pandemic, then by the war in Ukraine, but now new start. The last nuclear agreement between Russia and the United States is dying, and arms control may be too. So yeah, he suspended his participation in the nuclear arms treaty after that meeting. You know what I mean? So things are escalating.
Yeah.
And when you keep going over there and you keep giving them, like first we said we weren't going to give them planes. We end up giving them planes. Then we said we weren't going to give them tanks. We end up giving them tanks. Now, now we're giving them.
Because it's a slow, progressive. They already plan to do all that.
Yeah.
They just can't do it all at once because then people are like, oh, wait a minute. Like people can't take abrupt things changing.
Yeah.
But so they always, little by little.
Slow burn it.
Yeah, ease you into these things.
Yeah. At first it's about we're just going to send them aid, because they're even the idea that what's going on over there, we don't really know. Mm-hmm. We're being told that this and that is happening, but we don't really know.
And that's a shame.
Yeah.
It's a shame that we can't trust most news outlets.
Yeah.
But
we can't trust the government to tell us any truth.
Yeah.
This is the world we live in, and that's why everybody's a skeptic of everything because I think that's by design.
Yeah.
And it even bleeds into us as believers. Like people are skeptics of everything, and
you get deconstruction.
Yeah, you become very cynical.
Yeah.
And when you're cynical, you have no awe. You have no fear. You have no wonder. Mm-hmm. And you just become like, you act like you know everything, but you really don't, but because you feel like you've seen it all before.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the song, well, nobody knows the song but us. But, what is it? Burn.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
The second verse.
Have our words lost their meaning because you heard it all before? Yeah. Shout out to Stan. He said he had to get his 10% directly. Hunter is going down. And yeah, he said nuclear treaty. Yeah, I mean, let me play this little clip right here of part of Vladimir Putin's speech yesterday where he talked about this. Now, it's funny because when you listen to what he's saying in his speech, I'll just play it.
И здесь опять лгут постоянно, извращают исторические факты, не прекращают нападки на нашу культуру, на русскую.
So I'm going to read it for those who are just listening. And here they lie constantly, perverts, historical facts do not stop attacks on our culture.
Нашу культуру, на русскую православную церковь,
the Russian Orthodox Church and other traditional religious organizations of our country.
другие традиционные религиозные организации нашей страны. Посмотрите, что они делают.
See what they do with their own peoples, the destruction of family, cultural and national identity.
Со своими собственными народами, разрушение семьи, культурной и национальной идентичности.
Perversion, mockery of children, and pedophilia are declared the norm.
Извращение, издевательства над детьми вплоть до педофилии объявляются нормой их жизни.
The norm in their life. And priests are forced to bless same-sex marriages.
А священнослужители, священников принуждают благословлять однополые браки. Да Бог с ними, пускай что хотят, то и делают. Что здесь?
God with them, let them do what they want. What do I want to say here?
Хочется сказать, взрослые люди имеют право жить, как хотят.
Adults have the right to live as they want. We have always thought like this in Russia, and we always will.
Мы так и относились в России, и всегда к этому будем так относиться. Никто в частную жизнь не вторгается.
No one will invade private life. We are not going to do this.
И мы не собираемся этого делать. Но
But I want to tell them, look at the Holy Scriptures, the main books of all other world religions. Everything is said there.
Хочется им сказать, посмотрите, извините меня, священные писания, главные книги всех других мировых религий. Там все сказано, в том числе то, что семья — это
including that the family is the union of man and woman.
Союз мужчины и женщины. Но и эти священные тексты
But these sacred texts are now in doubt.
Подвергаются сейчас сомнению. Но как стало известно, англиканская церковь, например,
As it became known, the Anglican Church, for example, plans to consider the idea of gender-neutral God.
Планирует, правда, пока только еще, рассмотреть идею гендерно-нейтрального Бога. Что скажешь? Прости,
What can we say? Forgive us, Lord. They do not know what they do.
Господи, не ведают, что творят.
I mean, so you get it. Like he's he's actually talking about biblical principles, which is the complete contrary to what our president talks about when he gives speeches.
I mean, whether he's genuine or not, that's a different story. But the fact that he's just saying it publicly, and then you look at what our president says publicly. It's
But think about it.
It's embarrassing.
Whatever the president says is good. Oh, we're going to back Ukraine. You don't trust that man. You know what I mean? He's the kind of person that if he likes something, you better hate it, because it's all backwards with him. It's crooked, you know. And I believe that Putin is saying some good stuff. You know, I'm not saying that, you know, he believes everything or he's saying, but he's saying some good stuff.
I just find it interesting that the contradictory, you know, situation between what our elites are allowed to say, you know, and what he's talking about, and then the fact that you got to think about like why he's been made the villain in our minds for so many years,
right?
You know what I mean? Which, you know, I'm sure he's done some horrible things as the leader there. He's been president for so damn long, but it's just, you know, I'm always thinking about that. Like they did the same thing with Trump. It's like as soon as someone openly comes out against the like the establishment, they just get completely vilified. You know what I mean? And everything they do is evil. Everything everything about them is evil. And we're just supposed to just believe that, you know.
Right.
Which no man's perfect, number one, but as you can see, there's a lot of evil going on that we don't know about, and we get so focused on having our Super Bowls and you know, having our beers and I just want to be able to sit in my backyard and drink my beer. Like, I'm saying all that because that's what we get focused on. That becomes our vision. So like this other stuff just becomes like, all right, just deal with it.
Yeah.
You know? And then we lose focus. No,
because we don't want to be in a situation where we lose the beers in the backyard to watch the game. You know what I mean?
When these things happen, like imagine if there is a FEMA. Like that doesn't come. Who's coming for you?
Right.
Who's gonna help you? So if our infrastructure is that everybody's just selfish and not caring about until it's you, that's a problem. And that's what it's becoming in America. America used to be the country of the export of the gospel. Like it still is. Like I think we were talking about this at church. We were talking about I forget her name.
Yomi Park.
Yeah. And we were talking about
how
her
she
story.
talked about how the only people that cared about anything about what was going on with her was the Christians.
Right.
Yeah, I saw that clip.
Yeah, and how people use her story for their own agendas.
Right.
What, be it left or right. They'll use it so they can spin it their own way.
They can make a point using her story.
But the genuine ones were always the Christian because they just wanted to help.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're getting away from even that. Like, it's about self-preservation. When that's, you're trying to prove yourself.
And that was a clip from when she was on a podcast with Andrew Schultz.
Yeah.
And he brought up about the Lutherans, how they were the ones that advocated for some, I forget which refugees, but it was like a place you wouldn't expect. You know what I mean? He talked about that, how like he advocated for the Lutherans were the ones that wanted to help these people. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, the Sudan.
Yeah,
people from the Sudan.
Yeah. And think about Moan and the whole
That's what we were talking about.
Yeah, I thought about that when he said it, like him being brought here, his whole family being brought over here. If it wasn't for the Christians, he wouldn't be here.
No.
You know?
Yeah, you wouldn't be singing with us.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's interesting, man. Like the Christian faith is so demonized right now and so just like dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
But people don't give credit to like still like the most charitable people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
If it wasn't for that, the world would look a lot different.
mm-hmm.
The world would look a lot more evil.
Right. Yeah. So I wanted to show this clip. We got this thing going on in East Palestine, Ohio. And I don't know if you've been seeing this, but there's been a lot of disasters around the country along those lines happening over the last week.
More trains.
Chemical factories just burning like crazy, polluting the air. Like it's crazy. But this was a clip someone put together about East Palestine.
I mean, I don't know, call us conspiracy theorists, but does this seem a little too coincidental to you guys? 3 months ago, East Palestine, Ohio, ran a pilot program to respond to emergency situations. It gets better. They handed out free digital IDs called My ID, starting on January 26, 2023, just days before the train derailment. The My ID digital ID is a tracker with a QR code that tracks long-term health status of East Palestine residents, including, and I quote, difficulty breathing. It's almost like they knew something we didn't.
Mariana County coverage now, and East Palestine is known as the place to be. It's way ahead of the curve on a program to provide better treatment for anyone in the event of an emergency. I learned how it works and how it could help everyone in East Palestine. My ID provides quick medical information for emergency responders. Darlene Chapman is the outreach coordinator for this project, and she's an EMT.
If they're in a situation where they can't tell us or they don't have any family around, this is something that would make my life easier.
My ID works by taking a camera phone and pointing it at a QR code. It provides valuable medical information such as allergies, breathing difficulties, or other conditions, so you get proper treatment and care.
If anybody sees the QR code, you'll be able to scan this and get the information. So it helps that person, not necessarily just here, but anywhere in the nation.
There are a few options for My ID: a bracelet, key fob, necklace, or attachment on your watch band. You can choose the one which fits your lifestyle best. That's up to you. Orders will start in January.
See, I think a lot of people don't understand that the government does this all the time, and especially in like these small little sleepy towns. Mm-hmm. They roll out these pilot programs and see how it works on people before they introduce it to everyone. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like when McDonald's wants to try a new something and they just put it in a couple stores and see how it does. So it's interesting that 3 months ago they introduced this into that town.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It reminds me of which school shooting was it where they did something like this, but it was like a pilot program about school shootings, and then a school shooting happens.
I don't even know about that.
Yeah, it was in one of the towns. I think it was the one in Texas, Uvalde. I think it was that town. Like Uvalde was involved in some like pilot program about school shootings. And then, that happens, which is interesting.
Wow.
Let me see. I'm make sure I'm not making this up. Let me see. Uvalde High School had active shooter drill weeks before the massacre, was part of an AEI program to detect mass killers. Yeah. So there was some like rollout program, but I guess it was like involving AI.
Yeah.
But yeah, like right before the shooting happens, they're part of a AI program. That doesn't seem weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just reminded me of that. And then I don't know if you guys saw this video of the girl when she throws the rock in the water.
Yeah, I've seen this so many times.
Yeah. Just
I
wanted to
didn't
show this to the public. This is what the creek, this is what the water did.
Look at it.
It's all in the bottom of the creek bed.
Now, this is when the EPA was telling them that this water is safe to drink.
Right.
So she was actually on Tucker Carlson. She bottled up some of it and was like, "Here, you guys drink it." You know what I mean? But yeah, it's pretty crazy what they're dealing with over there.
But the weirdest thing is that movie you were talking about that came out right before that.
Yes,
That's
White
weird.
Noise, which was pretty much predicted the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which came out in, what was it, October 2022 or something like that, November?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
On Netflix.
Yeah. Which is crazy. Like, it's almost like predictive programming. People, there's no way that can just be coincidence. All right, so I wanted to show this. Did you guys see did you see Don Lemon going full Andrew Tate about Nikki Haley?
No.
You didn't see that? So Nikki Haley is running for president. She announced that she's running for president, right? And she made a statement basically saying, like, you know, it's time for young people to get in there. Everyone is old. Biden's old. Trump's old. Everybody's old. You know, it's time for the young people to get in there. So, and Don Lemon got in trouble for this. So he's pretty much on like paid vacation right now, paid leave. But he goes full Andrew Tate.
He's been coming against women a little bit.
Yo, he's been getting in trouble on this show. They're thinking of, I think they were having talks about firing him, but I don't think they will. But yeah, let's check this out.
This whole talk about age makes me uncomfortable. I think it's the wrong road to go down. She says people, you know, politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What are you
That's not
talking? Wait.
That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
It depends. I mean, it's just like prime. If you look it up, if you Google when is a woman in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s. I don't necessarily.
40s. Oh, I got another
I'm not saying I
decade.
agree with that.
Sorry,
so
Mom.
I think she has to be careful about saying that, you know, politicians aren't in their
I think
prime.
we
and
need
they
to qualify. Are you talking about prime for like childbearing, or are you talking about prime for being president?
What the facts are. Google it. Everybody at home. When is a woman in her prime? It says 20s, 30s, and 40s. And I'm just saying Nikki Haley should be careful about saying that politicians are not in their prime and they need to be in their prime when they serve, because she wouldn't be in her prime according to
Google?
Google or whatever it is. This whole
Why is that his take?
What do you mean? Why is he taking it? Why is he?
He is he's a leftist. Like, everything is about wokeness. Everything is about.
He's been doing
political
that lately, though. I don't know. It's weird.
Do you think because she's a Republican, he feels like it's fair game? I can say whatever and no one's gonna care.
Maybe. I don't know. Dude, does any of this make any sense?
No,
But
none of it.
it's just funny to me that he's using. Because first of all, he's conflating the talking point about women in their prime, because what running for president has nothing to do with age. You know what I mean? Until you get way up there.
Yeah.
Like, there is no prime. You know what I'm saying? Like, what he's talking about, 20s, 30s, and 40s, that's like what we talked about on here before. That's your, you know, the quote unquote sexual marketplace value. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Prime. That has nothing to do with what he's talking about. So he's conflating those two ideas. Talking about Google it. Like,
I mean, we're talking about confusion. That's what that is. Like, he's confused. That dude got problems. I'm sorry. Like, Don Lemon does not need to be on TV. He doesn't. that dude needs to go. But
well, it was
I
fun.
let God be the judge.
I think it was funny because he got pushed back from his co-hosts, and they were just like totally offended. So, so basically, he had to apologize, of course, and now he's
How many times have he apologized?
yeah. Donnie said, "Talk, Jake." I don't know what he's referring to, but yeah, Don Lemon has been getting himself in trouble lately.
Yeah. I'm bad. And people can, everybody can be right every once in a while, but he's not right. He just, it was like he was trying to make a point that didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's confusion. Like, dude, even when you do make sense, where are you coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you mean? Where are you coming from? Because to me, that's what, like, he makes sense one day and the next day he's talking crazy. So,
yeah. I guess it's just like, do you think that's what he really thinks about women, or do you think he just
maybe?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a gay man
Mm-hmm.
that might have a chip on his shoulder with women.
Mm-hmm.
You never know. I don't know how he really feels in his heart, but it's just weird. He's just all over the place.
I guarantee you, if that was like somebody who is an enemy to him that said that same statement, he would go on this whole rant about, how that's misogynist and,
Maybe. I don't watch enough of him to even know. I just,
Yeah, I didn't
the
even know
stuff
he was
that I
gay.
see him say.
Well, he got demoted from his nightly show because the ratings were so bad. So now he's on this morning show that's doing terrible. And
Wow.
he's about to lose that spot.
I'm saying I don't even know anything about him. I didn't know he was gay. I don't know anything.
Yes, Don Lemon is gay. All right, let's move on. Speaking of Andrew Tate, did you hear about the update in his case?
Nope.
Of course you didn't hear about it, because they're not going to tell y'all what's going on. Let me play this video real quick.
The rabbit hole continues. Let's go into part 5. So earlier today, some documents were released that were text messages from the 2 supposed victims.
Oh yeah, I did see
One
that.
is the Moldovan that we've already covered, and the American. And if you look over those text messages, you can see how not only did they plot to frame the Tate brothers, they rehearsed it, going over what to say, how to look, how to cry, and how to play dumb. They even made a joke 2 days before the raid happened, how their performance deserved an Oscar, that they were going to get a Netflix documentary out of all of this, saying things such as, and I quote, "You're such a great actress," to which the other girl said, "I practiced," quote unquote. Their performance was so good that even their own parents called the US Embassy and were freaking out. And the girls got upset with their parents because they almost messed up the show. And they admitted that they weren't actually kidnapped, that the Tate brothers said that they could leave whenever they wanted. So it seems that while the mainstream media and the police are saying that the Tate brothers used the lover boy method, actually what happened was these girls acted as if they were in love with the Tate brothers so that they could secretly milk it and get as much money and influence and have people talking about them as they could. So my question is this: how long have the police had access to these documents? I mean, they were already wiretapping the Tate brothers for the past 10 months. For 10 months, the police have tried to bury the CCTV footage that proves the Tate brothers' innocence. And yes, I know what you're thinking. These text messages have already been verified. They're 100% true. But hey, I don't want to just tell you. I want you to actually go and see it for yourself. Check out the article, come to your own conclusion, use your own 2 eyes, and use your own mind. The Tate brothers have been framed. The rabbit hole
Okay.
It's just funny how he talks like them.
Yeah. He's probably
like
does
a
nothing
little
but watch them.
British.
What is their accent?
I mean, they grew up in. Their dad was from America,
The U.S. Yeah.
but they grew up in Britain.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's a mixture of like listening to the dad. And then
I
going out
guess.
there.
I guess it's a weird accent, but I find it interesting that you're not hearing about this.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that they're still being held in prison.
Yeah, I saw it, but again, like you see these things, and it's like, you're in a corrupt country, and that's what's interesting because he said, I'd rather be in a corrupt country, but because everywhere is corrupt. But it's like
It's showing the flaw in that logic.
Yeah, that wasn't. Now he's
because you don't really get due process.
Yeah, it's a shame, but it's like, that's why you need God, man. And I pray that
he has Allah,
that he might find the true God.
Yeah.
That he might find Jesus, and I pray for that. I pray for both of them.
Yeah.
And that they will have justice and God can work on their behalf, and that they might humble themselves, because you can still humble yourself,
And I'll say this right now. I'll say that one of the things that this exposes in the whole Tate philosophy and the top G and Bugatti and all this stuff and women, I got women that'll do whatever, is that when you have this type of low value women around you, it doesn't matter if you think you're top G. This is the type of stuff that they will do to you. This is the type of stuff that they will plot and try to scheme and scam, because they're scammers.
Yeah.
And you're thinking that because you are so high value that you can keep them in line. That's not how it works. What's the saying? You lie down with dogs, you get fleas. You know what I mean? There's a reason why, like you said, they need to follow the principles of the Bible. He who finds a wife finds a good thing. A woman, a truly valuable woman who has your back, who would do anything for you, who would boost you up, would never do what these women are doing to him.
Yeah.
So all of that money, all of that top G doesn't save you from these women. That's the flaw in that whole logic, is that you keep yourself around that many low value women and you're going to get these type of results.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
In Proverbs it says, I think Proverbs 14, there's a way that seems right to a man, but the end of that way is destruction or death. And I think, we're doing all these things and it makes sense to us, and you're at the time, it makes sense because you're winning.
Yeah.
Right? For a moment, you're winning, but you're not really winning because it hasn't played through yet.
Yeah.
And the end is destruction. But the thing is, it says the way is destruction. So they're on their way to destruction. Again, you can humble yourself. Okay, what am I missing? Let me cry out to God. These are the things that you can do. If when you hold and you want to blame people and you want to blame the government, you already said they were corrupt. You already said, that's what I don't like. The Matrix. Okay, it's already the Matrix.
Yeah.
So if you're saying it's the Matrix and you're mad at the Matrix, because if we're coming at the Matrix, this is the logic. You need something greater than the Matrix. What's that?
Right.
It's God. And it's the God of the Bible. It's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's Jesus. Allah. It's funny because I saw somebody talk about how they try to say that Jesus spoke Aramaic, and in Aramaic, God is basically Allah, right? When you say God, but it's actually El, right? But it's obvious.
Yeah.
It's just like, so he was saying Allah, but it just means God. So it's not like Allah is not the name of a God.
Right.
I mean, name of God, but who is their God? They have no name. In Islam, there's no name. It's just Allah. Like Allah is great. But when you go back to the Canaanite God, that guy was El. They call it El. So, which same Allah.
Even Baal.
Yeah. So you have these things that people try to like be right on.
Yeah.
You know,
trying to connect dots that aren't really there.
Yeah, but it's when you go back and you look at like the history, there's no other documented life like the life of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Like the documents that they have,
right,
are far beyond any other document on it in any other religion.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that you have documenting people that were his disciples that then went on and became martyrs for something that they believed in their heart happened. Like that doesn't happen in any cult. That doesn't happen in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's always the one guy, you know, who does some crazy stuff and will indoctrinate a bunch of people, you know, but it's never like what happened in the Bible. Our cousin Eddie just chimed in. Shout out to Eddie. He said, Tate is locked up in Romania and court is corrupt. I had a friend from Romania who had an orphanage, and they are children with no parents in that country. There's children with no parents in this country. All right. Shout out to Emma. Emma said, greetings, guys. What up, Emma? Yeah. But speaking of the Muslim and Christian thing,
that shift starts happening.
Hold on. So Patrick Bet David had a little thing on his Valuetainment podcast where he talked about how the Muslim birth rate is about to outpace the Christians. So I'll play a little bit of this.
If you go to the next one I sent you, which religion has the most kids? Okay. And the changing global religious landscape. Babies born in Muslims will begin to outnumber Christian births by 2035. Okay.
Wow.
And people with no religion face a birth dearth. Okay.
Great name.
Babies born to Muslims go 20. So show the data there. Show the data, go a little bit lower so we can see that. There you go. So Christians, red. Muslims, green. Christians are not having babies like they once were having, and Muslims are having more babies. So if this is from Pew Research, and you got to trust Pew Research, they're not on one side or the other. They're just going to give you the data that they have. They don't.
It's facts.
It's not CNN or Fox. So go a little lower to see if there's any more data to look at here. Go a little lower to see if we have anybody else. Okay, there you go. So let's look at this one here. Estimated shares of birth and deaths. Compared to with their share number of overall 2015 population, Christians make up the largest share of 2010. Deaths, Muslims, the largest share of births. Okay? Wow. If you look at that number, 31% to 21%, but Christians, there's more dying than being born. Muslims, they have 10% more being born than dying. And then if you look at the disparity by 2055 and 2060, okay, Muslim religion is going to get bigger than Christians in the world because Muslims are having more kids. If I'm a Christian leader at the top and I'm a leader of 1,000 churches, I'm probably having this conversation with my community. By the way, shout out to Mormons for having more kids.
Yeah.
They're growing their base more. I know this could be kind of funny, like we're being funny about it. I'm actually not.
Yeah,
I think if you really want to, your competition is having more kids than you are.
Yeah.
Okay? And there's going to be more population there to impose their way of thinking,
of course,
and believing, and they're going to outnumber you.
Yep.
Okay? So Christians, hey, go make some babies today because that number is not looking good for you.
Okay.
That's so good.
So what were you saying? That's by design?
Yeah, I've seen this before. Like Muslims are having babies. They're
purposely
trying to outpace.
Right.
But one thing I will say is they don't take into account what God can do.
Mm-hmm.
How God can revitalize and shift things and reorder things, which is connected to revival and what can shift. You know, when you have a great move of God, and these things do happen throughout time, and mass people come to the Lord.
Right. And then it shifts a whole way of thinking.
It shifts a whole generation.
Yeah.
So then it shifts a whole, not just that generation, but generations after.
Right.
So, I mean, that's something that you have to kind of throw in there because, like, yeah, if by those charts you can look at it that way, but God has a way of working things in that we don't think about.
Yeah. You know? We look at charts and analytics and statistics and we feel like, okay, this trend is happening.
Yeah.
But anything can come in and shift that trend.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Just like what happened at Asbury University. I want to just show a little clip of the revival that was going on there. So yeah, how long was this going on for?
It started actually Super Bowl, I think.
Started during the Super Bowl?
Well, not during, but they had
after, right?
church,
Mm.
and then it continued.
Oh, like
I don't know if it was Sunday or Saturday, but it started around that time, and then it
Okay.
just continued to go.
Wow.
Which is really interesting.
Wow, and it
Yeah.
just nonstop. And how many days did it last?
I mean, it's still going on.
Is it still going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, wow.
different. They shifted it up a little bit, how they're doing it, but because it became overwhelming for just that community and
Yeah.
like the amount of people that were going to the community, they couldn't.
People were showing up
Yeah.
because of social media and
they
seeing
didn't,
this.
you know, it put a strain on that community, just
Yeah.
like housing and, you know,
Yeah.
also like food and stuff like that.
Right,
So,
right. I saw someone tweet about from that community about all these like mega church pastors that are like trying to get on board with trying to get on this wave, and they're just like, no, we don't need
Yeah, I
you.
saw that.
Like we don't want
Yeah.
you.
Need you.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, but there were a lot of pastors. Well, we'll talk about it later. I mean, if I don't know if you want to do that now or later.
yeah, we can get into it right now.
Okay.
Because I know it's a lot. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I cut up some clips, and I really wanted to talk about it and get into it because I think it's important. Because stuff like this doesn't happen all the time. I think that it being at a college shows how, because, you know, we talk about this stuff all the time, how they've taken colleges and this starting to go to other colleges too. I've seen, I forgot to put that clip in there. There was another clip from another college, but
Yeah, I mean, that is huge when you think about how much Christianity is like hated in the college, in the universities.
right.
You know?
I mean, and this college is a seminary type college,
Right.
So a little different, but even there, like things can become dry, you know. And then you know how a lot of seminaries, the things that they teach, which is it becomes crazy. But yeah, let's just get into it because they give a lot of good points.
Okay, so what am I getting into? You want to start with the first video with the?
You want to? Well,
I don't. You tell me.
let's do the revival first, and
Okay.
then we'll go back to.
I don't remember which video that was.
It should be the 6th one.
6th. Okay. Or the 5th?
Yeah.
From what I have read, Sean Bull.
That one?
Yep.
Okay.
What did the meetings look like? I know you mentioned like simple music, simple worship. How was the time spent? Is there a formal liturgy to these meetings?
Hold on.
That wasn't the first one. Yeah, I think that's the first one. That you just.
From what I have read, Sean Bowles has reported between Sean Bowles and James Gall from 2003 to 2005. It has been reported that
I heard it talk.
Bob Jones prophesied many times
Put it up.
that when
Yes.
the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, that God is
I will
ushering
start it
in.
over.
From what I have read, Sean Bowles has reported between Sean Bowles and James Gall from 2003 to 2005. It has been reported that Bob Jones prophesied many times that when the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, that God is ushering in a last days revival, and that it is a sign from God that he's raising up apostolic chiefs, like the Kansas City Chiefs, apostolic chiefs to, help usher in this revival. Now, Mike Bickle, that a lot of people attach this to because Bob Jones is one of the Kansas City prophets and, hey, Kansas City Chiefs and all that. Mike Bickle has publicly said
On
he
our
never
podcast.
said that to me, and he never said it while he was in Kansas City with me. So if he said it to other people, okay, I can neither affirm nor deny what he might have said to somebody else. And so we do have two people, Sean Bowles and James Gall, saying, yes, this is what he said. And the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. And not only that, but it was actually the same week that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl that this went down. I think it's curious.
Guys,
okay,
what's
so
even
what do you guys
curiouser?
think?
What's like even spookier? Like spookier is a weird.
Oh, the 1970 deal.
1970 is also the Kansas Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Like it's like the last time Revival happened at Cane Ridge, that also happened. Is that a coincidence? It might be. Let's take a timeout though, just real quick. Let's say Bob Jones never existed and he never gave this prophetic word ever. We should be ecstatic about what is happening at Asbury. What I fear is that people are rightly concerned about Bob Jones' track record and history. And because he gave a prophetic word about the Kansas Chiefs winning the Super Bowl, if that's what happened, if he does that, people are going to then assume, well, this can't be a God revival because it was prophesied by some kind of NAR prophet. That is silliness. Okay.
Okay. So
one, we don't know the source material.
I know a lot of people probably don't know what a NAR is, who Bob Jones is. So he was a prophet. He passed away. He was a prophet probably in the 70s, 80s. He was in Kansas City with IHOP, International House of Prayer. And just the guy that we're talking about, Mike Bickle, he was the head of that. And there was another guy there too, Paul Kane. And these guys were like prophetic, and a lot of the stuff they said came to pass, but they had issues in their life. So a lot of times I think people will look at the issues and they'll just say, okay, so nothing they said matters, right? Paul Kane was like into some homosexuality stuff. Bob Jones was into some other stuff. So there was some mixtures going on there, right? And stuff that they had to overcome. And I don't think people realize, like, when you're learning something and when you're dealing with something new and you're coming into something new and you really don't have anybody to steward over you or to guard you. And I see this a lot with the movement or the Jesus movement or people who came out of that movement from the 70s, right? People who came out of that into the 80s and 90s. Man, a lot of these people they had love for God, but they didn't have fear. And I believe that's something that's shifting now, is that truly understanding the fear of God. So when you look at these people, like NAR is the new apostolic reformation. And it's become another twisted thing. And a lot of people from like the Reformation movement, I'm trying to think of like Baptist, they take that and say, oh, this is what this is, and this is what this is. That's why you name NAR, right? And then you have these things and you say, oh, this is this, so you don't want to deal with that. And a lot of times it's not exactly what they say. It's not that, but you want to put it in the box so you can say, don't want to have nothing to do with that.
Right.
Oh, he did that, don't want to have nothing to do with that. And you can't discount what people have done and what things have come to pass, or what people have done genuinely out of their hearts. Like it's like when you look at parents. Your parents might have been bad in a lot of ways, but you love them because they raised you.
Yeah.
And there were things that they did that were solid, and you appreciate them for doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And they conceived you.
Yeah. So I think like because of like what has happened, there's become a lot of skepticism that people can come into, and then you get scared. Hold up, Bob Jones, you know? Because I know I've seen some stuff from him. It's like weird, and he was like some of the people he even mentored, like Todd Bentley. You heard of Todd Bentley, right? So like there's certain things that have happened that it's kind of like, wait, what? Like weird stuff. But you can't just discount everything and just be like evil. And I think we need to realize that, like, right, left, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not just they're evil, they're evil over here. there's nuance to everything.
Yeah.
Because you can't reach nobody that way. And
Right.
so I think that's what this is about. Like God using people that, like the guy Jim Baker, who was big in the 80s, right? 80s and 90s. And then he went to jail because he was ripping off a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But what did he say? He said, one thing, I love God, but I didn't have fear.
Mhm.
I didn't have the fear of the Lord. So he didn't, it was his desires. Yeah, you love God, but like your kids. Oh yeah, I love my parents, but I want to do what I want to do.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But when do you stop doing what you want to do? When you realize you have that, like, oh yeah, first of all, my parents, they discipline me, and I know I better not do that because they're going to get on me about it. But the other end is, well, I know that they have my best interests at heart, so I'm going to listen to what they have to say, and I'm going to put that first.
Right.
You know? So this is where that's coming from, and I wanted to bring that up because it was prophesied about.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And it had the connection to the 1970s when they won the last time.
And then there was the revival then, and then
Yeah.
they just won it now. And
Right.
Right. And it started before the Super Bowl even started, so it wasn't like, oh, let's remake the 1970 revival.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't have it anywhere. We don't have a recording of it. We don't have an audio version or a recording of it or a written words of Bob Jones saying this. We just have secondhand accounts. Okay, so I'm not saying Sean Bowles is a liar or James Gall is a liar. I'm not saying that they're manipulating people. I'm just saying we don't have the source material. So maybe this is a prophetic word. It looks like if it was a prophetic word, it has come to pass. But just remember, you can be a sinful person and God still use you. Frankly, I know because he uses Roundtree all the time. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But seriously, like
I guess that's one of
God
them.
isn't waiting for us all to be perfect before he uses us. And again, I'm not justifying what Bob Jones did. I wouldn't let the guy minister in my pulpit. Mike Bickle didn't let him minister in his pulpit after he fell. Like there are questionable things that happened with Bob Jones that I do not care for. I wouldn't encourage people to follow his ministry, or he's gone. Now he's no longer with us. But like that whole thing, there's a lot of questions and concerns people have about Bob Jones, and I think we should be careful about this is a fulfillment of that prophecy because it throws a tone on this revival that can stand on its own without a Bob Jones prophecy.
Okay. Next video.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really interesting movement. Let me just show you some clips of what's going on here. This was first day we got here was Monday. I'm looking at Elijah. You guys can't see, he's off screen. Monday, we got here. We showed up Monday night. This is footage from Tuesday morning. Yeah, in this clip, you'll see that's a line of. The mics keep automatically muting every time it rolls through these clips, so I apologize if it cuts out. But these are people inside worshiping. This is from today and yesterday. I had all this set up. It's funny. These are just. I mean, it's tremendous seeing these people worship, and you might be going, hey, this is all hype. Like this is not like real Holy Spirit stuff. This is a big hype show. But look at this line. Just take a moment. Let's pretend it was hype. Like, look at that. No, that's one line. Now, here's the other line. It's going to circle all the way around back to the other line. Like, I mean, it's wild how many people have come across the nation to experience God's presence at this place. God is definitely doing something in the hearts of people. Like, that's where the first line, ended, right? It's spectacular to see these people worshiping. And people are going, hey, maybe this is hype. I'm afraid this is hype. Guys, there's one guy on stage playing an acoustic guitar. There's another person on stage playing a grand piano, right? Like, there's no drums. There's no, people will start screaming and like clapping real loud, and trying to hype up and accelerate the music. And the guys on the music, just same beat, same pace. Like, they're not moving. They're not being swayed by things. People who are bringing shofars and tambourines and flags. And if that's part of your culture, I'm not like throwing shade, but like they're saying, hey, this isn't part of our culture. Like, we're trying to keep this space somber and holy and sacred. Today, there was more spectators than there were worshipers. And I don't mean to throw, again, shade at all, but there's a lot of people out with cell phones trying to film and live stream the event. And in the conference directors, I mean, some of the admins, said, hey, a couple housekeeping rules, like, get off the walls or the fire marshal's going to shut us down. Please be careful, things about that. But like, also, if you're streaming with your phone, can you turn that off? Like just let what God's doing here be here and like worship here. Like, you don't have to live stream this. You don't have to like, be in the moment right now with the Lord. Like they're doing everything in their power to like
de-hype it.
Yeah. They're like,
Yeah.
stop. Like, just let this be I think, and I can't prove this, I think maybe all the staff has been told like not to talk about this, because I've sent a couple of emails to staffers at Asbury that we know that we're in good relationship with that haven't responded to any of our emails. Like, it seems as if they're saying,
that would not be normal.
Which is not normal at all. Yeah, at all.
No.
It's a really interesting movement. Let me just show you some clips of what's going on. And I think it also teaches us
God willing.
Lesson. Yeah, God willing. Yeah, I think this also teaches us a lesson that God can move inside or outside of our cultural expressions of worship. And I think that's really important for the nation to learn right now, where the movements are so divided. Like you've got NARS and Pentecostals and Neo-Pentecostals and Classical Pentecostals and Charismatics and Third Wave Evangelicals, and you've got Baptists and Presbyterians and Lutherans and Methodists and Anglicans, and like you got these groups of people that are so divided and segmented. And it's like we just saw these massive revivals that were very expressive, and then you have this like real somber holy thing, and like God can just move. And I'm reminded of like, wow. And you know what's something that was really cool? There was I believe it was a girl I could only see from behind. And I just want to like prejudice. This is a moment of confession for me, my repentance. Okay. There's a girl in front of us, with like a jean jacket that had like, a bunch of like stamps on it, like those little patches that you sew on you. And her hair was pink. And she frankly just looked mega woke. And I saw her and I was like, I'm just going to cards on the table. She just looked super woke. And I was like, what is she doing here? And then I realized in a moment, I was like, this is what happened in the Jesus People movement. The hippies showed up and they saw the way they were dressed and they realized that the dress was attached to ideologies. And this is why they couldn't get past, like their prejudice, like made that difficult. And
so there's a movie that's about to come out. I think on Thursday.
Okay.
And it's the same guy who plays Jesus in Chosen is in this movie, and he plays the hippie, one of the hippies who actually becomes a preacher. And it's about the Jesus movement. So it's about the connection between like these hippies that come in with no shoes on, and how they start to come to God, and they don't know how to deal with that. Like the people who are like, the older people and traditional church people,
conservative.
They don't know how to deal with these new people that are coming in. And even the guy who he plays, the guy from Chosen, I don't know his name. So, that the guy he plays that I don't know his name either, he actually ends up having homosexual relationships later on. He got AIDS. He ends up dying, but he gave his life, he repented and turned back to God before he died and everything. But so you see like none of this stuff is just like, it's not clean.
Yeah.
It's dirty, it's messy. But you can't just discount it, because God was moving, he was doing stuff. But then it's like, that's what you see. People are skeptical because they don't want things to happen like that. But it's like, okay, you don't want to make the same mistakes that were made in the past.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think that's what they're trying, like, let's not make this a hype thing.
Right.
Let's just keep it about Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to steward these things. Like you need people that are leaders that can say, let's not focus on that. Let's focus on God. Let's focus on Jesus.
Watch over this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then you keep it pure. It has to be pure.
Mm-hmm.
Because, things get messy, and it doesn't mean God's not going to work, right? Because he's still going to work. Gifts are without repentance, right? He's still going to work. But what that does is it taints the way people see it, and then people become more skeptical.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have people who don't know how to deal with those things. They don't know how to process those things, right? Because they're still children, and you become rebellious.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the problem I think we're learning how to overcome. And him even saying, like, he sees this girl, she looks woke, like, him thinking, like,
what are you doing here?
Yeah, what are you even doing here? But checking himself, like, wow, she should be here.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
Right.
I'd never seen clothing and attire and hairdress and things like that, like communicate ideology. I just identified it as preference. Like if you're dressed in punk rock attire, like, you know, black cut up jeans, you know, rock shirt on, you know, oh, that's the style of music that person likes. I don't know what they believe about politics or what they believe about gender, what they believe about sexuality or war, or, you know, women's rights or anything like that. But when I see a girl dressed a certain way with pink hair, I go, man, that person's crazy.
That is interesting.
And I was just,
all right.
it just cut me to the heart, man. And I think it also teaches us.
God willing. I want to address something because I just watched a couple of other podcasts about this, reflecting on this, and a lot of them came with real big warnings and things like that. And I didn't like that as a response.
Warnings about,
you know, I think, you know, the warning of the NAR hijacking it. I'm like, guys, the NAR is not all powerful. You know, you make it the charismatic boogeyman, and like I disagree. There's major dysfunctions with the NAR movement, but I don't think you have to worry about this when it's being run by the faculty of a seminary that is quite familiar with revival history, quite familiar with manifestations of the Spirit, quite familiar with church abuses and things like that. I mean, you've got a number of very capable people that are kind of
doctrinally
overseeing
sound.
this,
Yeah,
right. And you got to wonder, like, God, what? I mean, it seems to me, based on what I'm seeing from the outside, what you've observed from the inside, that God is obviously doing something. And I just want to say this, like, when I think about the fact that the number, I mean, I can't tell you how much my Facebook feed is just blown up with reports of what's happening there. And I just go, man, okay, regardless of to what degree God's presence is being manifest, or regardless of the long-term fruit that will come from this, which I think there will be long-term fruit, you know, we'll know with 2020 hindsight. But in the meantime, here's what I can say is pretty precious about all of this. What does that say about the hunger and thirst for God when people from all over the country and probably now all over the world wanting to get into Asbury to be there? When you see a line of people at the door, there's not some guest speaker. There's not some famous celebrity. The celebrity of record is the Lord Jesus and the Spirit of God and the Father, and people are wanting to be in his presence, and they're so hungry to do that they'll come from all over.
I can't tell you the people we've met from all over the nation. They're just from everywhere. Like people that we know from Texas, people we know from our travels from abroad, like people coming up, hey, I'm friends with Miller. I hung out with Miller. And, you know, like it's wild to see. It's wild.
The difference.
Yeah. The difference of like what revival looks like, feels like when it's like, we're here for Jesus.
Purely God.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's spectacular. It really is, man.
Yeah, well, that's funny you mentioned that, because a lot of the people that you are seeing there were people that I saw in Cincinnati that came because they knew that this guy from the Remnant Radio was going to be there. And it's like, okay, this is the very point that we tried to make. We are just people. We are not just we don't deserve much of anything from God. We're just these people that God willingly He'd use us. And yet now He's doing something sovereign of His own, and it's not around a particular celebrity personality that has a.
Can I tell you how much it was
megachurch
uncelebrity? It was. It was
yeah.
There were no rows reserved for famous pastors. So like Daniel
Praise
Clement
God.
comes in and walks in, he sits in the balcony, you know, and he's happy to do so. You know, this is not a review of people's life and ministry. Todd Bentley sat in the back. You know, Greg Locke sat right behind me, 2 rows behind me, right? Like,
no way.
Yeah, dude, like pastors from all over the world are coming here, like big influential guys, like all over the sanctuary.
They're treated just like everybody else.
Just treated like everybody. No one
Praise
even
God
like
for that.
no one like they're not praising and they're like you know throwing palm leaves down. And
hey, so and so is here.
Like,
yeah,
it's just it's
honor
Jesus
the man
is
of
on,
God.
Yeah, Jesus is on display. It's super.
Sorry
cool.
for my facetiousness.
No. You know there's something to be said about
It's
like
refreshing.
honoring our leaders and things like that. But like everyone is here for Jesus and they're not here for a personality. And like people have been prophesying and declaring and believing for a nameless and faithless generation. And I'll tell you, dude, I looked at an older gentleman who came in. Hearing aids, him and his wife come in with a cane, you know, and like he is smiling ear to ear like he's been praying for this thing for decades. And it was so cool to just see him like looking at all these young people like, you know, confessing sin and worshiping and just, you know, wearing a smile, you know, like it was a COVID mask, like just wrapped around his face.
What did the meetings look like? I know you mentioned like simple music, simple worship. How was the time spent? Is there a formal liturgy to these meetings, or is it just like an ongoing nonstop meeting? What's taking place?
I mean, yes to all of that. So there is an actual worship. Like what's happening is 80% worship. Okay, so you come into the space and they're just singing songs. Okay, there is a couple percent. I'm not gonna get into math here. You know, every 2 hours, 3 hours, someone gets up on stage and says, "Hey, couple housekeeping rules." And they try to be respectful. They're kind with everything that they do. They're trying to organize things, keep things sensible and peaceful. You know, this is a place of reverence, this is a place of holiness. Like, let's be careful with how we're handling and stewarding this. If you've been here for a couple of hours, maybe find your way out so someone else off the street can come and sit in. You know, those kinds of things. The other, 20% is like a faith and repentance thing and like low level testimony. Like, we're not talking like high level, like, preaching, exhortation, verse by verse teaching. It's nothing like that. And I love verse by verse teaching, right? We're expositors.
Which we do at our churches, to be clear.
That's what we do. I do at my church. Miller does at his church. We're for that thing. And so I don't want to like talk down towards that. But I think there have been posts and tweets of people saying, well, there's not real preaching, so it's not really a revival. And I'm just telling you, man.
Hold on. That criteria of there's got to be preaching in order for it to be revival. Well, hold on. Since when are the gifts of teaching the end all be all to what the Spirit does when it comes to conviction of heart and sin? I mean, is he not capable of moving on a person's heart just by his own presence? Is that what happened in the Great Awakening? Was it because of the preaching that these people were convicted of their sin? Because last I checked, it's the Spirit that convicts of sin, not necessarily the gift. And I'm all for that gift.
True.
I literally do it every week at my church. So I have a hard time with that.
And someone who hears you say that, Miller, it's going to say, dude, it's not my teaching that convicts the souls. It's the word of God. And the Spirit's attached to the word. And we're not trying to downplay Scripture in any way. And the people there are using Scripture to say, like, God is here. And we're going to be careful, and we're going to worship him, and we're going to thank him for being here. And there's something very, again, precious about the moment. So there's guys like a guy named Zach who first did the testimony. Like he got up and he did the chapel session, and a bunch of people started repenting of sin. And I've seen him take the mic a couple of times and kind of give an exhortation or encourage the body in a certain way, or the seminary president will get up. But again, few and far between. There's no interruptions. It's mostly worship. That 20% though is often focusing on holiness and repentance. Like that is there's a big sign up on the wall that says holiness unto the Lord, or holy unto the Lord, something to that effect. And it's like in the chapel there, and that is like who they are as a people. That's the ethos of Asbury. So they're sitting around and they're, the Zach leads everyone in this prayer. He's like, look, if you want to confess sin, you want to get right with Jesus, we're going to practice in public confession. Okay.
What does that look like?
Yeah. He said, if there's something that's on your heart, stand up and say, hey, Jesus, I confess of lust. I confess, Jesus, of pride. I confess. He says just one word or two words. Like, I don't need a sentence. I don't need a big thing. Like, just
there's a lot of boundaries on what they allow people to do, which is good.
Which is great. Again, it's been shepherded for a movement that has no leaders. It's been shepherded spectacularly, as far as I can tell. So they would get up and say, hey, this is my sin. And so Jesus, forgive me, or Jesus, I confess lust. And what would happen is when he would get up and say, Jesus, I confess lust, the whole church would say, the blood of Christ forgives you. And then another person would get up and say, I confess addiction. And the whole room would say, the blood of Christ forgives you.
Man, I can see criticisms coming over those exact statements. You see what I mean? Like, oh, because they declare the blood of Christ cleanses you, or those kind of things. What would you say to the critic that comes in and says, that's not enough? That's not real repentance. That's not real confession. How would you respond to that?
There was a man who said, Jesus, I confess adultery. How much more repentance do you, like, he publicly said in front of a bunch of Christians, like, I have committed adultery. And like, he is publicly saying before the church, I have sinned. And then the congregation, and again, I'm not trying to say this is a church because we're all from different communities, right? But this congregation, this gathering of Christian believers said, hey, the blood of Christ is for you. I mean, Jesus says this, right? That the blood of the new covenant given to you for the forgiveness of sins, right? Like that's the table says that in the giving of the table. So
what did the meetings look like? I know you mentioned like simple.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was even the school name, it comes from a guy named Francis Asbury, and he was like a leader in the Methodist movement. And it's interesting because you see what the Methodist movement has turned into, right? The Methodist Church, I'll say, not the movement, because it's not a movement anymore.
Right.
But they kind of broke away from that. They're not Methodist anymore. But it started from him, and he was a guy who was around in like the mid 1700s to 1800s, and he was part of the second Great Awakening.
Okay.
So, and he played a big role in that. Like, he preached like crazy, and a lot of people don't even know about the first Great Awakening, the second Great Awakening that happened in America. The first Great Awakening had a lot to do with how the Constitution was orchestrated, how even the independence, the whole thing came about. A lot of it was preempted by the first Great Awakening. And then right after that came the second Great Awakening, after, it became America became America, the United States of America. So people don't know these things, but it's part of our history.
Yeah.
And especially the second Great Awakening, like there were all kinds of, that was a lot in Kentucky, and all races, we talked about that on here, right?
We have, yeah.
But this guy, it's weird because it's like, it's funny how God does things. And to me, like at Asbury, but also an ode to his name, because that movement has died that he was a part of starting, the Methodist movement.
Yeah.
But then, and you see where it's going to, like now you have homosexuals and even transgenders
Yeah.
in
pastoral
roles.
Yeah.
You know? So you see where it's gone, but you see how God could just bring something back, right? Through honoring somebody who started something that has gone left, but yet he honors the person, you know, or the name, which is it's so cool how God works.
Yeah.
He honors his life. So yeah, I wanted to play that because there's just so much in that you can see how people want to take it one way and they want to be skeptical and critical, and because of things that have happened in the past, and that's never a way to go about things.
But that's so much of how we operate as human beings.
Yeah, because everybody wants to be right.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be wrong.
Right.
Nobody wants to be, I told you so, you know.
And we love being hypercritical of everything and picking things apart and showing why it's evil, you know.
Right.
Donnie commented, he said, well, it's God's intentions to us and people, but the enemy's goal is to destroy the messenger, which destroys the message. Yeah, but I think, you know, what's happening there is amazing, but it is interesting to see all of the divisiveness in the church and like how everyone thinks that they have it figured out, and that if it's not the way they see it, then it's wrong. It's evil.
Like I heard some dude say they're not King James only, and if it's not King James only, it's not a real. Like, what are we talking about? Like this is. I forgot there were even people that were just King James only. That's
people
so ignorant.
There are people that say that all the time. King James only.
But I think like we're learning how to be we've said this before, how to be childlike and not childish.
Yeah.
Because childish kids, they pick, like you got kids that are like gifted, right?
Yeah.
And they can do something that another kid can't do. But a lot of times they have a gift, or you have kids that are just gung-ho. Like, I want to do that. My dad can do that, I'm going to do it. And they're going to try it. And then the other kid's like, you're stupid. You shouldn't do that, right? And it's like, who's wrong? Well, they're both kind of, like, at least he's trying.
Yeah.
He's wrong because he's kind of going too far ahead.
Thinks he can do something he can't do.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe he needs to learn more and humble himself. But at the same time, you ain't doing nothing.
Right.
So maybe you need to humble yourself and take his lead.
Yeah.
Right. But also take the lead of your father.
Right.
You know, so that you can learn. And if you have like the cynic or the skeptic is always going to be like, it doesn't look right in my own eyes, so it can't be right. But somebody who's not a skeptic or a cynic is going to look towards the standard. Is going to look towards, that's the fear of the Lord. The fear of the Lord is, yeah, this doesn't make sense to me, but what are you doing, God? How can this work out with you? Because nothing is, when anything that comes down and we get it and it starts to move and we get in it, it can always get messed up. How do you steward over it? You keep giving it back to him. You keep giving it back to him. You don't think you know. You don't think you got it all figured out. You keep giving it back to him. And then he keeps giving it back to you. You know, because, okay, you got that right. Let me show you how to do this. Okay, you got that. Let me show you how to do this. And it's that process. So we're learning. Wisdom is applied knowledge, right?
Yeah.
But there's a couple things with that. Wisdom is applied knowledge, but what wisdom is it? Because knowledge without God applied is not God's wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
But to know God and apply what you know, that's God's wisdom. But you can only apply what you know, but you got to know him more. See, so wisdom, even the application of knowledge, is a learning process to where you get a little bit, but then you got to figure out the rest. You get a little bit, you're learning how to apply it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process. So just because you can apply some knowledge doesn't necessarily make it wisdom that comes from God. It might be wisdom, but it's not wisdom that comes from God.
Right.
And sometimes we conflate the two. You know what I mean? We think that, this makes sense. And it's knowledge, and I'm putting it into play, and I'm going to go run with it, when God is like, hold up, but did you run that by me?
Yeah.
Did you allow me to show you? Because once I show you, I get out all the things that you don't need to do.
Right.
So I'm going to stop talking about that.
All right. So
but dude, we're in an amazing time. We
Yeah.
get to see stuff like this happening, right?
Yeah, man.
So I would say we talked about earlier about, nuclear stuff going on, like tensions happening, but then you see escalations happening, but then you see how God is working behind the scenes, right? He can shift the whole generation, like we said earlier. So don't just pass this by, and you're focused over here and afraid. But fear God, be in awe of God, to know that he can do something that you've never thought of before. It's never even come into your mind before, but you at least got to start searching for that thing that you don't even know that he can do.
Because otherwise you will be left in a state of hopelessness if you see all of the stuff that's going on. We got China talking about teaming up with Russia. We got, North Korea talking about lighting up the Pacific Ocean. You know what I mean? Like right now. But you can let all of those things put you in despair if you don't fear God.
But if you don't explain that, fear God. Some people might not understand.
What do you mean to fear God? What does that mean?
Yeah, some people.
Well, I said it, to be in awe of him.
Because some people might think fear. Oh my God!
It is a little bit of fear. Yeah, it's just like your dad. Like you gotta fear your dad a little bit, right? Because
revere.
No, so you gotta fear him, because that word fear means to fear. Like when you look in the Hebrew, there's no way around it. It means fear,
right?
So I think it's yadi or yada or something like that, but it means to fear. But it's how you fear him. Right. You have to know, I fear him because I know he has all the answers, and I'm not just gonna step out there and do whatever I want. Because I have to be submitted to him. People want to think Jesus is loving and just, and I'm not saying he is the most loving being you'll ever experience that has come into this world. Yeah, that has come into this world and is flesh, right? But they don't see the other side of him where he's a king. He's Lord. That's where you get freedom. You get freedom from the fear of the Lord, right? You get clean from the fear of the Lord.
Yeah.
You become pure. Like it says, fear of the Lord is clean. You get pure from the fear of the Lord. Why you get baptized? Because you fear God. So those things are important. You have to fear him. And we've been so caught up on the love part, Oh, it's just love, love, love. But love comes out of fear. So if you're not in fear, then you don't even know what love is.
Right. Respect comes out of fear.
Yeah.
Courtney said, I fear him because I trust him.
That's key.
Yeah. So what's the difference between that saying fear the Lord and when it says, I do not give you a spirit of fear?
Yeah, well, that makes you intimidated. And
I'm saying, what's the difference between that fear and the fear of the Lord?
Again, well, that fear makes you intimidated. So that fear will make you timid, and not sure. So should I talk to this? Should I? See, the fear of God sets you to do. Fear of God, it'll set you on your way. The fear of God is before the throne of God. You're sent by the throne. If you don't come to the throne, you'll never be sent, right? And you're sent in confidence. You got to go boldly before the throne in his fear, right? So when you're timid, that's intimidation comes from a spirit that doesn't come from the throne. Intimidation wants to rule over you. The spirit of fear is the spirit of intimidation that wants to rule over you and put you in a place where you're unsure.
Right.
Now you become like double-minded, right? You even use the Bible against you, like to make you like, well, am I right? Am I wrong? I don't know, So now you're like, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings because if I see now, it's like I gotta love them, so I don't want to say anything. You see what it keeps you stagnant. It keeps you from doing anything. It keeps you from engaging with people. That's like, I guess that's like one of the biggest ways to see it. Like it intimidates you.
Got you. Yeah, makes sense. All right, so now you got some other clips here.
Yeah, and this is like kind of along the same lines in terms of skeptics and fear of the Lord, because this is talking about Beyonce, right? And this is about a woman who, her name is Jackie Hill Perry, I think that's her name.
Yeah.
And she's a minister, and she had a book that came out a while ago that I don't remember the name of it, and I can't figure it out because I was trying to look it up on my phone, but my phone's not working. But it was about she was gay, and then she found Jesus, and now she's married, got kids. She has a cool story, but you can see how your own ideas get in the way, your own love, your own familiarity gets in the way of what God wants to do, and it makes you a skeptic of others.
Right.
And you're judging things by yourself and how you see it yourself. So that's why I want to talk about this, because what I like is that she starts to realize these things. So the first clip is about her talking about anagrams. I think it's enneagrams or anagrams. I don't know how to say it. Do you know about that?
No, I don't know what this is.
So it has some. I don't know too much about it because I don't want to know about it.
Right.
But it has to do with it's been coming into the church a lot, where people are like figuring out what type they are, and it has to do with like angels a little bit, or angelically, like. So I don't know exactly, but it's about putting people in categories and typing them. And
well, you just sent me that. What type of apostle are you?
Yeah.
You said
well, that's a whole different thing because.
But it is
because of where it comes from,
right?
And you're right.
Yeah.
Like it makes you think like,
right?
But no, it's where it comes from,
right?
Because when you find out where this comes from, it doesn't.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with saying because there's apostles, there's prophets, there's teachers, right? And even in that, you got and God wants you to know what He's designed you to be, right?
Right.
But when you got demons telling you,
it sounds like some kind of new age ideas being mixed in.
It's definitely new age
mixture. Yeah,
it's straight up new age.
Yeah.
But a lot of the churches embraced it. It's just like Zodiac. Like the stars proclaim Jesus. So if you know, like I'm a Scorpio,
right?
But the Scorpio actually represents how Jesus overcame and the warfare that He had to go through with the serpent and the scorpion, treading on serpents and scorpions. Like it's connected to that. But when you can't see that, they give you the other stories, and then they tell you what a Scorpio is, and then it totally twists things. So now you look at yourself in that way. See, it's demonic.
The Zodiac stuff, man, is always so like spacey to me, man. Like,
but it puts you in a type.
Yeah,
same thing.
It does.
When you don't realize, like, it's actually empowering when you see how Jesus created this, because He created the stars to tell a story about Himself, right?
I don't know if it's just me, but when I look at like the depictions of the Zodiac, I don't see what they see. Like, I don't like. How did they come up with this stuff, bro? Like, I don't be seeing it. I be trying. I look at the constellations. Like,
I used to hate when people, what sign are you? And I didn't like to answer that because I don't go by that. But when I said Gemini, they were like, "Oh, you're two-faced. You're bisexual. You're you know." They said all this stuff, and I'm like,
wow.
But when you know how God actually created that, it's about two walking together. It's about two coming together and being one. Everything tells a story. So when you don't know that, that's what I'm. So look, when somebody says that, if you know where it comes from, you can talk to people about where it comes from.
Right. Well, I never
So,
really looked into it.
what zodiac are? What sign are you? Oh, I'm this, but this is what it actually means. Did you know this? Like, it's always to talk about things. And if you don't know, it's okay. Like, yeah. Here's the thing. Like, if you don't know something, be honest with yourself and say, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know that's not cool, so I'm not going to do that. Right? That's where you're at. If you don't know, it's okay. You don't got to know everything. But when you do know, now you have a way to relate to people because you can relate it back to God. Right? Because he showed you something.
Because it starts to become another like form of idol worship where people worship these symbols. You know what I mean?
Definitely idol worship.
Yeah.
Because you put the symbol before yourself.
And
Speaking
they
of
look up their horoscope every single day.
Yeah. Which is like,
oh my God,
you know, that's literally like fortune telling and witchcraft. But speaking of idolatry, we're bringing up Beyonce. Beyonce is a huge idol, especially in the Black community. And there has been because she just came out with the new album. She got the Grammy. You know, she thanked the the queer community is what she said. But also the controversy of the pastors that are like taking pictures with her, the pastor's wife, John Gray's wife, and people just not understanding why it's a problem to still want to like go to the concerts, you know, and be a part of this whole Beyonce thing. So that's why we're going into this. Yeah. All right. So here we go.
I was really skeptical and have been for some years when people were saying that the Enneagram was demonic. Because I do feel like sometimes people can be way too deep.
Mark that. People can be way too deep.
Yeah.
Because that's the skeptic part. See, that's what people do. Like, because people have taken stuff and sensationalized it, which people do.
Right.
Again, you got the kids that go too far. Right. But just because those kids go too far, you can't just count them all out.
Yeah.
And that's what, so then it becomes, look at you. Well, you're doing too much.
Yeah,
that's the thing. You're doing too much.
Yeah.
Right? And that's how we take it. So
the Lord prompted me to study that thing for a good 2 days. Evil. And it ain't even funny. Like, it's legitimately doctrines of demons, divination, witchcraft. And I had no idea. Okay, so one of the dudes who was the originator of the contemporary understanding of Enneagram as we know it, he said that he got his information about it through an angelic visitation from a spirit or divine being named Metatron. Which
ain't Metatron from Scientology?
No, Metatron is actually it's from occultism.
What is it? Which one? But ain't that from Scientology though?
They might have got it from occultism, but Metatron's been around.
I've heard of Metatron.
Metatron is in the second book of Enoch, I think. It's either in the second or the third book of Enoch.
Okay.
Which is not really a book of Enoch.
Right.
It's called a book of Enoch.
Right. But I just remember when you get to like when you finally buy enough books and finally pay your way to get all the answers about Scientology, I thought there was like something about this alien being Metatron who created the world through a volcano or something crazy like that.
I don't know.
All right.
But he was an occultist.
Yeah.
L. Ron Hubbard. So.
Yeah, he was.
We know is a demon. And then the other guy who created the types, He said on YouTube that he got his understanding of the wisdom of types through automatic writing, which is a form of channeling spirits, where a demon basically guides your hand or guides your mind to help you write down certain ideas.
Every time I hear about that, I just think about that girl when we were young who was messing with Ouija boards, and she was doing that stuff.
Yeah, Michelle.
And
right?
she was doing that auto writing stuff. That stuff is because it started out with her just being obsessed with the Ouija board, using it every day, couldn't stop, and then she didn't need it anymore, and she would just write.
Yeah, I was in the study hall with her, and she's like, "Look what I'm writing, Jake." I was, you know, I knew back then, like, well, we knew, you don't mess with the Ouija board, you don't mess with none of that stuff.
So when we say, "Oh, I'm type 1, type 2, type 3, whatever," we're literally applying to our identity the wisdom of demons.
Bro, I don't know what she's talking. Like, I've never heard of this.
Dude, it's big. I heard about it last year, and it was...
And this is like something that they're doing in the church a lot?
I never heard of it. In the church?
Yes, in the church.
It's called enneagrams?
Enneagrams, yes.
Enneagrams. And it's about figuring out what's type 1, type 2?
I don't know, because I don't know that much about it, but you put people in these types, and again, it's kind of like the horoscopes, like, yeah, that is...
Right.
That does make sense. It is me. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, it's literally that deep. And I had,
Enrica, Chile, Yeah, so that came from my own observations, but mostly from automatic writing.
Automatic writing?
Yeah, it came to me from automatic writing.
So this is the guy talking about.
This is him talking about.
Specific information
and it's enneatypes.
About enneatypes, which I then verified through observation, because I was surrounded by people I was teaching and exploring with.
And I had friends in Enrica who told me essentially the same story.
And I was telling Preston,
how much hallucinogenics were involved in this process?
Dude, new age, man.
Yeah.
New age.
But see how the mixture...
Yeah.
Oh, everything is getting a mixture in it.
Yeah. Yep. But that's why you need to fear the Lord.
Part of this is I've talked about Enneagram on several occasions, and so part of me feels a responsibility to renounce it publicly and to bring attention to the demonic nature of it. Now when we think about Enneagram, how do we think about that? Because I think people think, oh, it's giving me knowledge of self. But when it comes to Enneagram, those of us who, believed in it to a certain degree, it was that it just seemed like a cooler personality test. Like, it gave me language, or so I thought. It gave me language for who I was and what made me tick and how to understand other people, apart from the sphere.
It sounds a lot like psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Like that type of pseudoscience, like psychological breakdowns of people and diagnosing them with personality disorders, or, like the same type of thing. Mm-hmm. It just gives you a language to kind of...
It's seductive.
Yeah.
It's seductive because people want to know how to place you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
People love categories.
Yeah. And to a certain extent, there should be some sense of a category. But, like, even in that, like, you're never, like... just this thing or that thing, because everybody's different, right? But you could be a little bit of this, just like, oh, you're like your father this way. Oh, you walk like your dad, or you're like your mother in this. Like, there's always, and that's good to point to.
Yeah,
it's good to point to those things. But when you're like, when that becomes your God, that becomes your idol. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's a problem. And this is straight hijack,
But I think what I'm seeing is that if these men develop this framework from demons, then that means that we are actually choosing to understand ourselves in ways that has nothing to do with the Spirit of God.
So, is it... God loves us. Does God want us to go after things that are unfruitful, or does he want us to be wise and be in awe of him, to hear him, and he says, don't do that.
Yeah.
And just don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to know why.
Right.
and then maybe he'll start to add
You'll gain
wisdom to it and understanding too. But
that's how we are with our kids. When they're at an age where they can't understand, you just have to tell them, don't do that.
Right.
Like, what does it start out with? What is the first thing you tell your little baby when they do something wrong? You just say, no.
Yeah.
You just say no.
Right.
And then they start to learn that.
Right.
No means
they
don't
look
do
at
that.
you. You're about to touch something.
Yeah.
They look at you.
Right.
No.
You don't need to say anything else because anything else would be too much for them.
Yeah.
So you just say no.
Right.
And then they understand that no means I don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then as they get older, you have to add more to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
But what does the skeptic say?
Why?
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
Right?
That tree is great to eat of.
Yeah. Or it could be, don't do that because there's demons in that and they're gonna destroy your life and your house and your family and they're gonna come and eat you. Like, see that, then it becomes, you're adding to it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So either way, it's not good.
Right.
Just listen.
That's like, I remember Mom used to add stuff to things when we were little, like,
I know what you mean.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I remember in the house, for example, we had that little closet door where the furnace was, and I remember, like, you know, little kid, you're fascinated with when it would turn on and the flames would, and Mom would be like, "Don't touch that, or the whole house will blow up." Like, he would say stuff like that. The whole house will blow up. Like,
But that kept you away from it.
But yes.
Yeah, but see, that's not a holy fear.
Yeah.
You're putting fear into us that don't need to be there.
Yeah.
Right? Because then when we grow older, we're like, she lied.
She was lying. And the same thing, because remember the little red switch in there to turn off the whole system?
Yeah.
So you could turn off the whole furnace with that switch. And I remember asking her one time, like, what does that switch do? She was like, that'll blow up the whole house. I was scared to death of that switch. Like, don't touch. Why is it there? Like, why would you have a switch that'll blow everything up?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the next clip was the YouTube clip, right?
Oh, so she wasn't done?
No,
She
on
was
that
done?
one she was done
Oh,
on that
okay.
one.
You don't have to do the YouTube one. The YouTube one is just, I'm just showing she's into Black Lives Matter stuff.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I mean, yeah.
And so this is I'm just like, I'm not coming against her.
Yeah.
This stuff is all public, right?
Right.
She's put stuff up
she's
on
spoken
Twitter.
about this, yeah.
She has a chip on her shoulder a little bit that I see.
Mhm.
I'm saying it. In terms of how she sees how black people,
But that,
like
I
the
mean,
whole black thing.
I think that is something that is common in the black church and especially with black believers because of, you know, the traumas of
right
this country. You know what I mean? So you
Yeah.
see that where
I think that's. But to me, you're falling into the partiality space.
Yeah.
Where you're showing partiality to yourself and to others that look like you because of shared struggles.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think you're relating in that way instead of relating it back to God so he can give it to you with purity.
Yeah.
You know, so you can now, we went through these things, but this is why we went through these things because God has shown us a way to speak to others and reach others. You know what I mean? There's always a reason why God allows you to go through these things. Like, so she was equating like talking in that clip, she's talking about how they, you know, Americans and how people went to a whole nother continent and, you know, brought Africans here just for slavery. And it doesn't equate for why would you even be brought here?
Mm-hmm.
Why would Africans sell you?
Yeah.
And if you look at slavery with anybody in the world, ain't nobody perfect. I mean, not anybody perfect. Nobody's a saint. and people messed up and made mistakes. So even when they went into slavery, it's not like they were just great people. You don't know what they were doing,
right?
You know, and I'm not saying that to demonize anybody or to make I'm not saying that to make it. I'm just saying
or
that,
to exonerate anybody either,
right?
Because American slavery was one of the most brutal practices in history. You know what I mean?
But I am saying that God turns all things around for good.
Yeah.
If we love Him, if we put Him first,
right?
If we fear Him, and when we're looking at our situations and trying to weigh them by how we see it, we miss it. And that's the problem. God is the one who weighs things, not us.
Yeah.
And we can only weigh things as He shows us. So
we
don't have to look
to
at
get
that.
into that. All right. So let's just go to the next clip here.
I was a self-proclaimed Beyonce fan, secretly. Like, everybody that knew me knew. So I've been Team Bey since I was 8. I'm 33 now. Okay, that's a long time. And so I done seen, I done seen all the shifts and all the things. But I'm like, but the thing I valued, past tense, and I guess present tense, the thing I valued about Beyonce was her creativity, her work ethic, her courage in some sense. So probably a couple months ago, a solid 2 months ago.
And I will say that there is an element of like, this is someone for me to look up to because it's someone that looks like me. Beyonce is the most famous woman in the entire world. So of course, especially for Black females, there's a part of it where it's like, this is an idol. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and I think like what she says without realizing is value. Like, you get your value. Again, that's about scales and weight. How do you value things?
Right.
It's about what you're looking towards most. How do you know to value her? You know, like, oh, because she's creative, but where she get her creativity from?
Right.
You know, all these. I'm just saying, like, we say these things, but we're not really thinking about it when we say it.
Yeah. And I think also the element of that she's desired by men. She's successful. She has the diva boss, persona that a lot of women, they look at that and say, I wish I could be that.
It's attractive to them.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's keep going.
I was getting my hair done. And that week, I kept entering into conversations with people where they were talking about how they had to throw away or get rid of some kind of object that had evil intentions or origins, right? And when you have conversations with people and stuff keep coming up, so it feel like, oh, the Lord, you must want me to do the same thing. So I was like, okay. So I sat in I was getting my hair done, and I sat in the chair, and I was like, okay, God, if there's anything you want me to get rid of that has evil origins, let me know. I'm thinking the Lord finna say, all them shoes or that shirt or that book in the back of your closet that you didn't realize you had. Literally what entered my mind was Beyonce. I said, wait. I'm like, that's just my subconscious. Like, that's not the Lord saying that I got to get rid of Beyonce, right? Because I just refused. I refused to believe that Jesus didn't want me to still be Team Bey. So when that happened,
you to be single
one
ladies
of the
out.
lyrics to Black Parade kept entering my mind, right? And it
Black
was the
Parade.
lyric where she says some ocean energy, and that kept going in my mind. And I felt like the Lord was like, just study, just research, just read. Like, you ain't even gotta be all that deep. Just read. And so I was like, okay, who is Ocean? I went down the biggest deep dive for some days on Yoruba spirituality, on Oshun or Orishas, on all the things. And I realized after doing some research.
All right, let's stop that. So go back to slavery.
Yeah.
So a lot of this stuff from those areas where slaves came from had to do with, you could call it voodoo.
Yeah.
Yoruba,
yeah.
That's why, like, a lot of the Brazilian slaves, they were allowed to hold on to those things. French slaves, they were allowed to hold on to those things.
Yeah. Haitians.
The Spanish slaves actually mixed
They
it
figured
with
out
Catholicism.
how to hide it with Catholicism. Yeah.
And then the English slaves, they wasn't playing any of that.
Right.
So they kind of lost a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
But you see it how it still survived in Brazil to this day. There's people who still in Puerto Rico, in
all the islands.
Yeah, you have
but then New Orleans too.
Yeah, New Orleans.
Yeah,
you got the voodoo there.
I mean, look at where all the carnivals are. You know
Yeah.
what I mean, Mardi Gras in New Orleans, all the carnival celebrations throughout the Caribbean and in Brazil.
Right.
Because that's literally a mixture of the rituals.
Yeah.
And then into
also Catholicism.
Lent,
Right.
where you give up, something.
So it's like before you give up debauchery.
Yeah, right,
Like
right.
before you give up what you want to give up, the one thing, let's go all out.
Yeah.
That's where carnivals come from.
But then it still celebrates all the masks and all of the
the mask
adornments.
Is for what? So you can't see who you really are.
Right.
So you can hide behind something. But then you have the again, you have Santeria in Puerto Rico and Cuba. So you have all these things that came from Africa.
Yeah.
Right? These are the things that were not good things that came from Africa. So you got to recognize that part of your ancestry. Beyonce was actually using it as a good thing.
Yeah.
And she, especially, what was it? Black is King?
Black is King album.
On the Black is King album.
She went full on.
We talked about all that on this
We did talk about
podcast.
that on here. And we showed people in Africa who were saying, she doesn't even know what the heck she's talking about.
So she's starting to, I guess she's late to the story because she didn't want to believe it.
She didn't want to give up.
But she's ministering to people.
But I want to make another point about, because we were just talking about the Black Lives Matter thing.
Right.
Because we've showed that on here too. What were the two founders of that organization worshiping? And what were they practicing?
They
were doing those same rituals.
Witchcraft stuff, yep.
And they were open about it.
Yep.
And they were talking about how the hashtags and about say their name was a part of worshiping the dead.
Pouring out libations, all that stuff.
Yes. But go back to what you were saying. I just wanted to
connect all that
that's
all connected.
Yeah.
And even in terms of so I don't, for her, I don't think she understood that, right? Because I know it doesn't seem like she really wants to worship. She doesn't want to do any of that, but it's the fact that that you're blind because you desire to love something, and you're also familiar with something, and you become partial to that thing.
Right.
Now you miss the deception, you miss the witchcraft that's already affecting you.
Yeah.
Right. So then you're like, again, what she said earlier, y'all too deep for me.
Right. She said it in this one too. She was like, I was feeling like God was saying to just research it. It ain't even got to be that deep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. But then she said, I did a deep dive.
Right. Yeah. That is true. All right, let's keep going.
Since Lemonade, that's where the shift was. Since Lemonade, she has centered false deities and embodied them, right? So in Lemonade, when she comes out with the yellow dress on and the water and all the things, she becomes or tries to embody these false gods and the worship of ancestors, right? And so I was just like, I really felt some type of way. One, I felt some type of way because I was just like, but I like the music. I like the music. But I also felt some type of way because I didn't realize how blind I was. Because I liked the music so much that I didn't have discernment. The music made witchcraft beautiful. And that's the problem. And
so isn't the fact that you like the music
witchcraft?
Yeah, because you're literally attaching yourself to that spirit.
Yeah, I still don't know if she realizes that it made witchcraft beautiful, but I don't think she realizes. But it was beautiful from afar,
right?
Type thing. No, you were under the seduction of it,
right? Exactly.
And which is I'm happy that she's even talking about this.
She's up. She's awakening.
Because God is showing her so that humility.
And she's able to speak to other people that might be struggling with the same thing.
But again, we don't have to go down this route. That's
Yeah.
my point. Like, we
Right.
don't even have to go there if we have the fear of God.
Mhm.
Because if we can just listen and recognize what God hates, he hates for a reason, you don't have to go down that route.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it don't have to be that deep. I'm not doing that. Like, when we just talked about the Ouija board. It wasn't deep. We
Yeah.
just knew you don't mess with that.
Yeah.
Mom told us
Right.
Ouija board is evil. You
Yeah.
told us stories.
Right.
Me and Jamie was like,
Yep.
we're out. Like, they were
Yeah.
playing with a Ouija board in the house. We was like, what, 13,
Yeah,
14?
13.
Like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah, y'all on your own with
Y'all
that.
go
one.
ahead and play with that.
Yeah.
We knew.
Yep.
We didn't have to know exactly what it was. No, I'm not being involved with that. Y'all want to be involved with that. You know, there was a fear there. There was a fear of that's not right.
Mhm.
Right? It wasn't like I was afraid of being attacked by a demon or anything.
Right.
I just knew it wasn't right. But then seeing what happened afterwards,
right.
like, yeah, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
You know? But again, we all told them, don't do that stuff.
Mhm.
They didn't want to listen. So again, and at that time, you know, I didn't know Jesus enough to
there's
no way you could articulate
to understand deliverance or
Yeah.
anything, you know.
And plus that music that she's talking about, like Beyonce, you know, that's music is hypnotic
Mhm.
to the person, and they don't even realize it.
Yeah. I mean, on one sense, because she said like music it's just music. I can understand that in terms of time signatures.
Yeah.
Chordal structures.
Yes.
Like in that way, yeah, it's just music. But there's an intent behind the music.
Mhm.
That's what, because like when you look at, like when you're doing mixes, right? And you're listening to certain types of, you're listening to other music that is
sonically.
yes.
Yeah,
You're not, it's not like you want to listen to this music. It's just the things that people are listening to sonically.
Yeah.
You're just connecting to what you're doing.
Right.
So people will listen
Mhm.
to what we're doing
Right.
because if it's so sonically different, people don't know
Right.
that they don't even want to listen to it.
Yeah.
That's totally different.
Subconsciously, they tell themselves, this sucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't even know why.
Right,
So
right,
you
right.
have to at least, you have to compare it to something that is considered high quality. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that's the, yeah, but you can listen to that without ever connecting to it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Right. Because you're listening to it for totally different reasons.
Right.
So, but the thing is, somebody could say, well, why are you listening to that?
Yeah.
Like, and they don't know why you're listening to it.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Right.
But then you can be like, yeah, but I'm only listening to it because it's music. But why are you going to a concert?
Yeah.
Why do you like it?
Right.
Those are the questions you need to ask. Why do
Right.
you like that so much? I know that's stuff that I would ask my son,
Mhm.
Fabian, like if he was listening to something that,
Yeah.
or Leslie, my wife.
Yeah.
Like, why are you listening to that?
Yeah.
You know, because it's like just a question like, why do you like that?
Yeah.
What is it that you like that for? Because sometimes we don't even think about those things.
Yeah.
I just like it.
I just like it.
But why? Do you hear what they're saying in the song?
Yeah.
Like, you mumble back the words and you don't realize even what you're mumbling back.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? These are things that are subconscious.
Yep.
That start to come in, you know?
But just think about it. Satan was the chief music. What was he? Music.
I don't know if that's true exactly. You might be right, but I'm just saying it's not. I don't
But
know.
what I'm trying to say is, he's going to bring the big deception in music.
Yeah,
You know?
definitely.
I mean,
he's gonna use whatever, but
yeah. But music is one of the major things.
But yeah, music
The
because it
airwaves
hits
and
you hits you subconsciously.
Right.
You know, it hits you subconsciously. But when you're aware of it, because it's like, okay, I can go into a place where they're playing music. Am I going to be afraid to go there now? And I'm like this, and I'm like, I'm leaving with my fingers crossed
Or
and
you
walking.
gotta
I'm
cover your
walking
ears the whole
backwards
time. Yeah.
because they're playing music that's going to affect me. See, now you're taking it too far.
But see, that's the difference, because what happens is you have to be open to it for it to affect you.
Right.
You have to be, you have to open your heart to want to receive this music.
your heart and your mind.
Yeah,
it's imagination.
Yeah.
When you look at a child, what is the most powerful thing about a child? The imagination.
Mm-hmm.
It's about what are you imagining. I was talking to my son about this today. The other day, I told you about that. Like, just saying, like, if I tell you you're never going to amount to anything, and I'm saying that over and over again to you, you're going to start thinking about that. You're going to start imagining how you'll never amount to anything. And it's about that'll be open to you. But if I'm telling you every day, Jakey, if you trust God, you can do anything in God, but you got to keep believing that your life is in him. Like, just giving him that imagination, right? And then he starts asking me questions. So the fact that he's asking me questions and he's talking to me, he's imagining it.
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't even be thinking about it to tell me the things if he wasn't imagining it, right? Yeah. And then when somebody comes along and says, you'll never amount to anything, he's like, okay.
Yeah, right.
Like, he's not taking it in because he's already closed off to that idea because he's set in a way. So you can be around stuff you can be around the sound because that's a sound.
Yeah, it's
Whenever
vibration.
Yeah, I'm saying even just speaking, sound, vibration, it's a frequency. And you can be around that, but you won't let it in because
That's so
you're already
weird.
set.
I have to say something. You know, before when I used to dance and I loved dancing and salsa, it's something that affected me. Like, I would be this fire would go inside of me, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But God is just awesome because when I went to the wedding,
You used to love dancing.
When I went to the wedding, I'm not lying to you. They played that music and I felt nothing.
Nothing?
Yeah.
Nothing. It was like, I just felt like, wow. And I knew that's something God was doing because before I would be like, oh, I got to dance.
Yeah. Right.
Now it's like, I just feel, and it's not the age either.
Then the next step is when you get to our level, when you hear it and all you hear is the spells in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you hear that music and everything about it is just like, you just like, I just hear all of the spells.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right, let's keep going.
There's these moments in my life that Beyonce is a part of. And so to cut it off or to remove it felt like, wow, like this is sad, but I have to be willing to trust that protecting my heart from evil is a good thing, right? Like I have to be willing to believe that there are spiritual realities at play that as a wise Christian, I should not be opening myself up to.
Opening yourself up.
Now. To me, the issue is less about Beyonce and more about the necessity of wisdom. I think we have a wisdom problem. Wisdom being the application of knowledge. And I think a function of wisdom is discernment. Discernment is the ability to notice and identify goodness and to respond in such a way where the discernment is shown to be good and right and true, right? And so we have this concept.
That's key. What she just said. How do you know something's bad? Because you know something's good. How do you know something's fake? Because you know something's real. Right? So look at Psalms 34. It says, taste and see that the Lord is good. Right? It speaks about fearing the Lord. Trust in the Lord. Let me teach you the fear of the Lord. That's how you taste and see that the Lord is good. You trust him. You fear, right? An orphan doesn't trust because they're too used to being an orphan and having to fend for themselves.
Yeah.
They only trust themselves, right? But when you come into a good father's house, you got to learn that he's good. You got to fear him, and that takes time.
Yeah.
It takes discipline. So we learn how to taste and see that the Lord is good, and it's through the fear of the Lord. Now you're going to be able to understand wisdom, and then you'll be able to discern. And then it'll just become second nature because well, that's fake.
Yeah.
Or that's not the real thing. And then you don't have to be afraid of doing the wrong thing. That's where the spirit of fear comes in.
Yeah.
And that's different. That's what we were talking about earlier because you think like where you're trying to be like the demonic hunter and the trying to think of the other thing, the false teacher hunters and all these people that everything is a demon and everything
or
is,
she said open yourself up, and I've heard so many Christians like use that in every scenario where it's like, don't go over there because you're gonna open yourself up to don't watch that movie because you're gonna open yourself up to don't, you know what I mean? And it's like every little thing, and it's like, are they right? They could be, but opening yourself up means you have to be open to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And sometimes we are.
Yes.
Sometimes we're familiar with something, and so when we see something, it should be something we shouldn't be watching.
Yeah.
Right? There should be stuff. I know that's something I can't watch.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna turn it off.
Right.
Like, for me, I fast forward. Like, I'll watch a movie, but if there's sex in it, I'm fast forwarding through it. I'm not watching that.
Yeah.
Because I don't even want to go there.
Right.
And that's something me and my wife always do. We just fast forward to stuff. But
it's pointless anyway.
Exactly. What is the point of sitting?
Right.
It is pointless.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sitting here, really?
Well, yeah.
Like, we always say that. We're like, why do they have to go through all this?
Yes.
Like, it don't make any sense.
Again, you see the spell in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Every time I see it, I see that's what I see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But yeah, so there's certain things you shouldn't be watching.
Yeah.
Certain things you shouldn't be looking at because you might be learning how to close yourself off to things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But when somebody has no desire for something, like, there's Africans, and I've said this before, there's Africans that are Christians, or Africans that grew up in, they don't even have to be Christians. Africans in tribes that they don't wear top. Like, women don't wear tops, or they barely wear anything. Dudes are walking around with their stuff out. Like, they're not looking, they don't have the same mindset we have.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can't look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't.
Right.
Like, oh, I don't want to open myself up to.
Right.
No, the way they don't see it in that way.
Mm-hmm.
They're not even thinking about it in that way.
Right.
And that's where we gotta check ourselves, you know. So anyway,
start coming, and we have a lot of people really excited about it, really promoting it, and I have friends, right, who kind of have a connection to Beyonce, and we have different calls because their call is to influence the influential. My call is to influence the influenced. And so so that's why I'm talking to y'all, the people who are influenced by the influential. There's these moments in my life that Beyonce is, even if they are sacrificing the food to an idol that is not a real God, there is a spiritual dimension behind the idol that is demonic. And so by virtue of
Did you
cut that part out?
I cut it out because I didn't want to go through that whole scripture. But so she's talking about a scripture that's in 1 Corinthians, talking about eating meat sacrificed to idols.
Right.
So that's what she's going over.
She's comparing that to basically wisdom, and
she's comparing it to consuming music
or going to a Beyonce concert.
Right.
Yeah. So I'll start it over.
Even if they are sacrificing the food to an idol that is not a real God, there is a spiritual dimension behind the idol that is demonic. And so by virtue of you taking part in the food that was sacrificed, you are also fellowshipping with the demon the food was sacrificed to. And I think that is potentially the principle that needs to be applied to our participation with certain music, concerts, whatever, is that even if we have the insight to know that it's just music, it's just food, the spiritual reality at play inclines us to be wise in saying, but I cannot fellowship with demons. I cannot do it. Here's the heavier part. He says, verse 21, this is 1 Corinthians 10, by the way, you cannot drink the cup.
Again, I just want to point out, like, that term fellowshipping is inviting something in. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? it's about opening yourself up to joining with something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a word. It's funny. I was just looking this up today. You know how imagination, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it says to imagine or think, or mind, your mind, right? The mind part. Sometimes if it's even said heart, but the actual Hebrew word for heart is leb. But sometimes it says heart, but it means what's within you, right? And it's the word karab in the Hebrew. But the karab, I might be doing it backwards. Kereb in the Hebrew, right? And it means what's within you. It means your mind. It means the seat of your emotions, right? And then, but here's the key. It comes from the verb karab, and the verb karab means, and I might be saying it's either kereb or karab, but the point is, is that it means to come close, to come close to, right? So when you're imagining, it at first it's far off.
Yeah.
You come closer, and then it becomes within you. And I thought that was so crazy when I saw that in the Hebrew.
That is.
Dude. So it's literally what we're talking.
Yeah.
You open somebody knocks on your door with a thought, right? If you think on it, and what does Paul say? Think on these things, whatever is pure, whatever is. So it's what we think on. What are you going to think on? If somebody says something to you, somebody snaps on you, and if you're really thinking on that, and like, man, I should have said this.
Yeah. You working out the whole snap back in your mind
instead of like, and I did that.
Yeah, I've been there.
You know, I've done that, and then I remember when God started checking me in that, and He was like, "Pray for them."
Right.
Pray for them. Forgive them right now. Like He had to check me. That's when I was like, it started to shift my mindset. See, you change your mind, you change your imagination.
Right.
I go straight to. Bless his life. I thank you, Lord, that you can that whatever is keeping them from you and your mindset and the way you want them to think, like whatever.
That's repentance.
It causes you to change your mind. Right. Exactly. Repentance. You go away from your old way of thinking. You go away. You stop letting in the wrong thoughts.
Right. You stop fellowshipping with the wrong
ideas.
Stop
fellowshipping with the wrong ideas. That's a process.
Yeah. Keep going.
Of the Lord, he's talking about communion, the Lord's Supper, and the cup of demons, meaning that when you take part in communion, there's a fellowship with Christ and an association with Christ's body because of the fellowship of the Lord's Supper. And he then draws that out into them eating meat sacrificed to idols, which is in the same way taking part in the Lord's Supper is fellowship with Christ and identification with Christ's body. Then also in the same way, when you eat meat sacrificed to idols, there is fellowship with demons and identification with the idolaters that are doing the work. And so what is at stake then is a matter of witness and a matter of fellowship, because there are people who may see your partnership with certain artists, and by partnership, I simply mean just being in the temple, being in the concert, that it does something to their conscience, where now they don't have the same tools and the same wisdom and the same knowledge you have, but because you're there, they can then assume that they're in the right place too, right? So it's a matter of witness, but it's also a matter of fellowship. I don't know, I can't speak to the implications of what fellowship with demons is, because the text doesn't say it, right?
I can.
Because
it's fellowship with demons is about dead works. It's about doctrines of demons. It's about what's dead. And here with Christians, you're being brought to life. Those who believe, right? What's John 16? 3:16.
For the
God so loved
the world that he gave his only begotten Son, and those
that whoever believes
will be saved and have everlasting life,
have eternal life. Yeah. So it's to eternal life, right? It's to life. He's bringing us back to life, right? He's bringing us to life. the moment we take in something that should be outside, we fellowship with it. The moment we take in something that's dead, right? Faith without works is dead. The moment I trust in something that's dead, I'm not in faith anymore. I just let something in and I say, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Let me go do that. I'm in fellowship with demons. That's how easy it is.
That's how easy. It's that simple.
That's why, like, when she says it's not that deep, it actually isn't that deep because you
Right.
can get caught up in that. It's that simple.
Mhm.
And that's why people start becoming dry.
Mhm.
Churches start becoming dry. They start becoming dead.
Dead, yeah.
Desolate, right?
Mhm.
Wastelands.
Mhm.
And where nothing, you think, but God, that's what we were talking about, revival.
Mhm.
God can revive those places.
Yeah.
All it takes is for us to realize everything I'm doing, there's got to be more to this.
Mhm.
Like, I'm doing all these things, I'm left empty.
Yeah.
There's got to be more to this. So let me humble myself and go to God.
That reminds me of the book of Ecclesiastes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's all vanity.
Everything's meaningless.
Yeah, it's dry.
Empty.
It's empty.
Yep.
It's all empty if we don't do it where He has shown us how to do it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And I think that's where she's not
Right.
seeing that.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying she won't see it.
Yeah.
But I don't think she's seeing that because sometimes when you're so text oriented, it's hard for God to show you.
Right.
I don't think there's much more to that. There's one more video, right? Or no?
Let me see.
Because I don't think we need to go
No.
any further.
No, that's it.
Okay. So there was one scripture I wanted to read because I think it's so key.
Okay.
Right? It's
Wrap
funny.
it all,
I
tie it all up
feel-
with a nice bow on top.
Yeah. Or like Ruslan.
Oh, what does he
No,
say?
because he says that. He always says like, and I got one scripture that's going to wrap it all up. Or something. He says something like that. But anyway, it's James.
Donnie, hold up real quick. Donnie said, I think she is seeing it.
You know, she's definitely seeing some of it.
Yeah.
I don't think she's seeing all of it, but I think she's coming out of that deception.
Yeah.
Definitely.
For sure.
Because of all her videos that she's put out, which praise God for
Yeah.
that, right?
Mhm.
But what I'm saying, what my main thing is that I think we need to learn how never to be in that place to begin with. And that's the fear of the Lord, because disrespectful kids don't hold the things of God or don't hold the things of their parents of any significant. And then we fall into things we never should have fell into in the first place. And that's my issue with this generation. And I'm speaking about myself included, like where we thought there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with doing that.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong. And then we missed all the things that God was trying to keep us from.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's my issue that I have, but also the hope that I have that we can grow in that so that the next generation doesn't have to go through that. And that's connected to the fear of the Lord. It's connected to honor and respect. Why do you think we got so many wives that don't respect their husbands nowadays? Because we're breeding that, you know?
Yeah.
How many marriages end in divorce?
80%, right?
No. It's like 50%.
Is it 50?
It's 80% of women.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah.
So, no, yeah, it's 80% of women start divorces.
80% of divorces
are started by women.
By women.
And 90% college-educated women.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, so go back to this. This is James 3:13. It says, "Who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show by good conduct that his works are done in the meekness of wisdom." So that's in humility, right? The meekness of wisdom is humbling yourself to God's wisdom. But if you have bitter envy and self-seeking in your heart, imagination. So think about this real quick. In the Bible, it talks about those who flatter you with their lips, but their hearts are seeking to destroy you.
Yeah.
Their minds, their imaginations are seeking to destroy you. So You flatter people with your lips, but inside you're self-seeking and envious, right? Inside, you've already let those thoughts that came from demons in.
Wow.
So that's where this is going, right? It says, but if you have bitter envy, and we got to be real. If you feel this way, if you're thinking this way towards somebody, you're already compromised. Once you can see that, you can deal with it.
Yep.
It's all right to feel this way. But it's when you lie to yourself and you say, no, I'm not dealing with any of that stuff. You'll never be able to deal with it. So, but if you have bitter envy and self-seeking in your heart, do not boast and lie against the truth. The wisdom, this wisdom does not descend from above, but it's earthly. Look at that. This wisdom. So this wisdom, but it's earthly. It's sensual. It's demonic. And I think that's where she was kind of going. And we all can go there, right? Because we think we got to figure it out. We become partial to things, and then we're not accounting for everything because we're not accountable to him.
Right.
Then it says, for where envy and self-seeking exist, confusion and every evil thing are there. So you think about young lions. Young lions, Ezekiel 19, young lions are princes. They're supposed to be ruling, right? They're learning how to rule. They're learning how to catch prey, learning how to rule. Young lions. They fall into Babylon. They fall into confusion.
Yeah.
They fall into confusion, never to be heard on the mountains of Israel. Heard your roar. When you have captured the goodness of God, you roar when you got it. That's prophecy. Why is prophecy so off nowadays? Because we lack the fear of the Lord. Because we're after our own ambition. We're after our own selfish envy, right?
Yeah.
And self-seeking. We want to see ourselves in an image, an idolatry, an idol that isn't God, but we made it to say this is God, right? This is the image of what God wants me to do, right? God told me to do this. I'm going to go do this.
Right.
So we start twisting the image, right?
Yeah.
So then the wisdom becomes sensual. It becomes demonic. So it says, for where there is envy and self-seeking, where envy and self-seeking exist, confusion and every evil thing are there. Every evil thing are there. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure. First pure. That means you got to go through cleansing. First pure. That means you got to go through cleansing. What does that mean, guys? Wives, submit to your husbands. Right? Husbands, love your wives as Christ loves the church and washes you with the water of the word, cleanses you with the water of the word, right? Why? Because he wants you to be without spot or wrinkle.
Yeah.
It's about purity. First pure, then peaceable. Because where there's confusion, there's no peace. The moment you submit yourself to God, you start to come into purity and you start to come into peace. Peace. Those who are peacemakers are solution bringers. You're not blaming anymore. You're going to bring solutions, right? Then it says gentle, because you don't have to be hostile no more.
Right.
You don't got to be ratchet no more, right? You don't got to prove yourself no more.
Yep.
You don't got to snap on nobody no more.
Right.
Because you know God is changing you, right? And then it says willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruit. Now listen to this, without partiality and without hypocrisy. Children are hypocrites, and that's okay. But there's a time when you have to grow up.
Yeah.
Children are hypocrites. That means they act out parts that they don't really know how to do, right? And that's okay. But there comes a time where you got to be real with yourself and say, I don't know what I'm doing, and I want to know what I'm doing, so let me really seek the Lord so I can do, or let me seek my Father so I can do. Let me learn from somebody who already knows so that I can do. And let me stop trying to prove to them that I know when I don't know.
Right.
You know, that's what wisdom is about. Partiality is about relating to yourself and relating to others by yourself, because that's what you're familiar with. But when you turn to God, he pulls you out of that partiality, because he's not partial. Right? There's no partiality in him.
Right.
And then it says, now the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. So it just wraps it all up.
Yeah.
That's what a son of God is. Blessed are the sons of God, for they shall be the peacemakers. So the fruit of righteousness. Wisdom is about putting things in its place. And I realize, like, most people want to be discerning so that, because they're afraid of being wrong.
Yeah.
Or because they're afraid of being duped.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're afraid of being deceived, being tricked, being taken advantage of. And I saw this movie over the weekend. I can't remember the name of it, but there was a line I remembered from it. I talked about it at church. It was an honest man can't be taken advantage of. Or it was like an honest man. You can't steal from an honest man. That's what it was.
Yeah,
you can't steal from an honest man. And then he said, so you can't feel sorry for the mark. Right? Because they weren't honest. And it's true.
Right.
But I was telling my mom, when I heard that being said, it was like I was watching two demons speak to each other. Because that's how demons speak to each other about us.
Right.
Like, we're in our right.
Yeah.
We're in our right because they didn't trust God.
They deserve it, yeah.
Because our honesty is actually in God.
Yeah.
And so this is something, and I'll leave it at this. This is something that I saw. If you're honest with the wrong people, you'll be taken advantage of. So it's not about being an honest man. It's about being the honest person to who you're honest with. And that's about how you measure things. How you measure yourself, you have to measure yourself by the standard, Jesus. Or I said this earlier, I was thinking about the control, right? In science, the control is what you use to measure the whole experiment, right? So when God wants us to measure for ourselves, he wants us to always look at him. And when you look at Samson gave away, he was honest with Delilah. What happened to him? He ended up in chains. He ended up blind. He ended up blind.
Yeah.
And in chains. So we can't just, it's not wise to just be honest with everybody or just be vulnerable with everybody. But you know what people think is the most virtuous thing in this world? Honesty and vulnerability.
Yeah.
But they want it all out there for everybody to see, and that's not wise. Because now everybody's going to pick you apart, and everybody's going to take advantage of that. But your honesty should be with those you know will cover you in love.
We were just talking about that with Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Same thing. So if we're honest with ourselves, we can be honest to know we need somebody who is greater than ourselves, which is Jesus. And then we can relate that to him, and he can cover us with his love, with his understanding, with his wisdom, with his knowledge, with his counsel, with his power, all these things. And now we start to get back something that we can now give to somebody else.
Right.
And cover them with. Right? But in order for you to be honest, you got to know you can trust that person. You know, in order for somebody to be honest with you, they got to know that they can trust you. And when we're living in a world where most people can't trust each other, you can't be so mad that people don't want to hear what you got to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it takes time to love people in that way. where then they can actually trust you, and they let down their walls, and now they're open to you, and they're not open to the things. See how the demonic stuff starts to close off, but people have to love, and the more you love, it's funny because me and mom were talking about that earlier. People, the moment you do something that is loving, what do people do? What's your angle?
Oh, yeah.
What do you want?
Right.
You know, they can't, it's hard for them to think that you just want to do something for them.
Yeah.
You just want to give. There's no motive to it. But you were loved, so you want to show that love to somebody else. You know what I mean? It's hard for people to do that, but when you continually do that over and over again, you start to break the skepticism in this world.
Right.
You know? And I think that's what it's about. Nobody can do that for you but Jesus. And Christians have shown that in the world.
Yeah.
Beyond anybody else. This world has changed because of believers that have taken that stance, you know, in the world. And that's got to show something. That's got to show for something.
Yeah. Good, man. Donnie commented amen twice.
Donnie's still on there?
Yeah, he's been watching. It's the longest we've ever had Donnie watching. Shout out to him, man.
He stays on when we're not talking about
politics.
The stuff he don't want to hear about.
Yeah.
Nah, but thank you, Donnie, for sticking with us.
Yes, hi, Donnie.
He said, I thought I would have to walk away from this week's show. But this last part was rich. Why? What did we do? Oh, because we made fun of Biden going to Ukraine. But we appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
Shout out to everybody who's been watching. We had a bunch of people on Rumble. Still got a bunch on Rumble. Shout out to y'all, man. Make sure you share this video, like, subscribe, hit that notification button on YouTube. Got some people watching on YouTube. Appreciate y'all. But yeah, we need y'all support. So if you like these type of conversations, you like what we're talking about, you can become a member. Sign up for our Patreon. It's right here. We have the different tiers. Mom, you could pull it up for me real quick. Yeah, we could become a young lion and support the cause. We have the different tiers here that you can sign up for, where there's going to be a lot of different perks, a lot of different
you could
things.
put it on Jamie.
Got
Oh, sorry.
And don't forget we got the website jatan.com, where we got our merch store on there with all of our little cool designs. And we also have the Young Lion merch store, where you can get all of the Young Lion apparel and different things. Just different ways to support. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button on your way out and share this video, and we'll catch you guys next week. Peace.
Young lion, go live, yeah. Young lion, you rich, yeah. This kingdom has room.